Gentlemen, at this time, I would like to call to order our meeting on April 10th. Please rise at this time for a short prayer and a salute to our flag. Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all of our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice and service to our nation, and may He watch over and protect our servicemen and women now guarding the gates of freedom. Salute to our flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. You may be seated. Statement of publication, please, Jessica.
Take notice that this regular meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held this 10th day of April 2023 has been posted and advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Valka,
Here.
Conti,
Here.
Novak,
Yes, here.
Anoha,
Here.
Roberts,
Here.
Zabrowski.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to start with, I don't believe we have any approval of prior minutes at this meeting. So we're going to move forward with our proclamations and presentations. I'll start with the proclamation first, and then I'll ask that the council join me at the dais because we have a special certificate and celebration from one of our residents. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to state our proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which states, whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month and the observation of Denim Day are intended to draw attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has public health implications for every community member of Middlesex County, including lifelong mental health impact. And whereas sexual assault, sexual abuse, and sexual harassment greatly impacts our community, as statistics indicate, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18, with many more experiencing other types of sexual violence in their adult life. And whereas prevention is possible, so we must work together to educate our community about what can be done to stop sexual violence while supporting survivors. Whereas staff and volunteers of anti-violence and anti-prevention programs in Middlesex County, including the Middlesex County Center for Empowerment and Sexual Violence Prevention Coalition, encourage every person to speak out when witnessing acts of violence, however small, and to challenge the social norms that continue to perpetuate a culture of violence. And whereas the New Jersey Sex Crimes Officers Association and the Middlesex County Sex Crime Liaison Officers, in connection with the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office, are dedicated to ensuring the effective investigation and prosecution of sex crimes in our community through interagency collaboration and training. And whereas with leadership, dedication, and encouragement, there is compelling evidence that we can be successful in reducing sexual violence in Middlesex County through increased awareness, prevention education, focused on increasing gender equity, healthy relationships, and bystander interventions, and holding perpetrators who commit acts of violence responsible for their actions. And whereas throughout the month of April, Middlesex County strongly supports the efforts of national, state, and local partners, and of every citizen to actively engage in public and private efforts, including conversations about what sexual violence is, how it is prevented, how to help survivors connect with services, and how every segment of our society can work together to address sexual violence. And now, therefore, I, Victoria Kilpatrick, Mayor of the Borough of Saraville, in collaboration with Middlesex County, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and that we join anti-sexual violence advocates and support services programs in the belief that all community members must be part of the solution and end sexual violence, and encourage the observation of Denim Day on Wednesday, April 26, 2023. I have a motion to accept the proclamation.
I move the mayor's proclamation be approved on roll call vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Valka,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'll ask that our council join me at the dais, in front of the dais, I should say, for a special certificate and presentation to one of our residents, if you don't mind. It is not this time our cheerleaders or our football team, but rather that I think has done a lot for our town. She's here with us today. Margaret, would you like to come up? Thank you. Hello, Margaret. It's so good to see you. So for those of you that don't know Margaret Kimmel Miller, I would like to introduce everybody to Saraville's, I think, one of our first Guinness World Record breakers right here in our town. So ladies and gentlemen, we are in the book. We are officially in the book. So Margaret, and you could turn around so that way you're on TV and face everybody in the audience. So Margaret's no stranger to TV because she did not do this act just on a softball field alone by herself with a few cameras. No, you had fanfare that literally lined, this is only a few, that literally lined Berks Park on one of the chilliest, coldest days you could pick for a softball pitcher. So that was how many months ago now? It was in November. I've been playing ball for many, many years, okay? Fall ball included. I have to say November is not often kind to our softball players, but Margaret in her strength turned around and said, you know what? I want to do something to represent my community. I want to show strength. I want to show fortitude, and I want to be a role model for our young girls, and our young boys too, that you can do anything. Margaret, it is my honor, as I told you that day when you had News Channel 12 and other reporters there, you turned around and hit the circuit early in the morning and did not stop. I'll let you tell everybody the total number of pitches that you threw and the amount of time that you did. And if you so choose, let everybody know how old you are, because that was impressive as well. As a 44-year-old, I can't do that anymore. And I used to pitch for a long time. So I'm proud to present to you, on behalf of the Borough of Saraville, certificate of recognition to Margaret Kimmel Miller for shattering the Guinness World Record of 200 softball pitches thrown in 1 hour and setting a new record of 352 pitches while raising funds to fight colorectal cancer. Ladies and gentlemen. But your story goes beyond what you accomplished on the mound, because this was more of just wanting to be inside the Guinness Book. This had personal connections. This had a lot more to say about strength, grit, and fight through your life, and that you should never give up on your dreams, and it's never too late to turn around and try and make a difference. So would you share with everybody just a little bit about your story? Because you were one of the most impressive women I've ever had the honor to know. Okay, can you do it? You think so? Yeah. I waited till it was warmer.
I want to say that I deal with depression. And so a year before the event, I made a goal for myself to give me reason to go on. And then it became, okay, I'm an old lady too. So now what are we going to do? So I said, well, I'm going to try to get in the Guinness Book of Records because I just have this softball. I grew up with softball. It kept me out of the house. It kept me going. It kept me away from depression. And it continues to do that. And I just want to impress that on the younger girls today, to the younger kids, and let them know that you never have to stop. Just keep going.
And I can't let you sell yourself short either, because you have been strong from day one. You're also former military as well. So you served in the Army.
I'm retired, yes.
Retired.
Yeah, I served 20 years in the Army. I retired.
And you're back home in Saraville where you belong,
Yeah.
because we've missed.
Full circle, yes.
When you told me your story and you brought me to tears with the things that you struggled with and with depression. And right now, as somebody in the school district and seeing our young people coming back from COVID and being on that hiatus and doing virtual learning, when they said that depression and other types of social anxieties are now present in our young people, I'm telling you, it is so true. I'm seeing it personally with family, but I'm also seeing it with our students. And that's your story was so important to me, because
Back in the day, it wasn't something we wanted to talk about or say. It was like a stigma. You wanted to hide it and not. And now today we can talk about it. And a lot of us are living it. So
just a remarkable woman. But this was also to raise funds for colorectal cancer, which was also personal to you as well. So I'll let you speak on that as well.
colorectal cancer was last month. was in
Yes, you're
March
getting your
to-
microphone back.
To fight colorectal cancer. One of my sisters, I have 10 brothers and sisters. One passed away in 2016 from colorectal cancer. And she had a long fight with that. And so her husband, he continues to do fundraisers to raise money for research and to continue to fight and to get the word out that you better go get your ass checked.
And that's the slogan, ladies and gentlemen, right there. So on behalf of myself and the entire council, we could not be more proud to have you back with us and to be able to present you with that certificate and tell you, now you have to beat it again.
I did it at 62 years old, so it's going to take them girls a long time before they break it.
And I think so. And they better do it in November like you did with the same weather conditions. There was also a young lady that was your catcher through that entire time. And she also made her way into the Guinness Book of Records. And we will be giving her also a certificate from Guinness Book as well that I would like you to come back and present to her. Okay? Because what an inspiration it was to every single person out there. So, amen. Thank you so much, Margaret. Did anybody want to add?
I'll tell you, that's an impressive story, Margaret. You're inspirational. I love hearing about that sort of stuff, and the kids must look up to you, and that's important. You know, the kids need a role model, and you seem to be a great from one thing to the next to another. I mean, 20 years in the service, the pitching, the standing up for colorectal cancer. I mean, geez, where does it end? That's fantastic. I'm so impressed. Very impressive woman. Happy to have you here today. Well, that's a big part, I'm sure. So that's great. Really great.
As Mayor said, constantly hearing about young people giving up and taking their own lives. You're really an inspiration. If get your message out to all the young people that you just put one foot in front of the other and God will give you the strength to keep going. Thank you so much for what you've done.
It was so wonderful to hear your story today. And it's great that you're being a role model for young people, but you're also a role model for those of us that are adults, because we all have our struggles. We all have things to face, and you just put a face of strength on all of it. So thank you.
Gentlemen, to my left.
I just want to thank you for your service to the country, and congratulate you on a remarkable task and good job.
Well, Margaret, little did I know when I was escorting you up tonight that you were going to be the head of our meeting. But sincerely, thank you for your service to our country. We really appreciate that. 20 years is a long time. My son is serving right now in the Army as well. So I appreciate the dedication you gave. Second of all, thank you for sharing that story. It's a wonderful story, but it's one that I'm sure will resonate with our residents, but also all the young girls that may be feeling the same way. And finally, thank you for taking your talent and utilizing it in such a way, such a wonderful way to be able to raise those funds. Can't appreciate what you've done so much. Thank you.
So our council president is virtual right now. Can you hear me, Council President Noha?
Yes, I can. I can.
There you go. If you wish to speak too, we can hear you. You're going through our whole system here.
I'm grateful. I want to say thank you even for your service, and I want to say thank you for your representation, for our borough. Hearing your backstory today, it definitely makes so much more sense as to how you were able to accomplish a glorious world record. And I'm sure that this new achievement will prepare you for even more accomplishments to come. So congratulations, and wishing you all the best for future achievements in advance. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Margaret, you're an inspiration. You keep going. And I'm so excited for you because this is big. This is step forward again. So way to do it right every single time you try. Love you much. And thank you to her whole family. So. Shout out to anyone.
One shout out is that many members in my family have served in the military, and right now I'm trying to put some bricks on that veterans wall. So any assistance you can give me, I'd appreciate it.
You know, my friend Glenn over here, he comes to every meeting and sits on the right. You give him a call.
I will do that. I think he got me.
He's
in
got
touch
you
with
already.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an honor. Feel free to stick around. If not, feel free to go out and celebrate the real softball weather.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Oh my God. Oh my God, I would love that. No, I need inspiration like you. That's what I need. Thank you so much.
I didn't know how far we were sitting, so I felt like this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for a beautiful
Thank you.
ceremony.
Thank you.
They really are a beautiful family. They've been through a lot, and that's what Saraville is, just good people doing what's right. Oh, I love opening with good things. I love opening with good things. And we're going to keep things moving. We are going to, no need for exec this evening, correct? Okay, we're going to move right into old business where we have some public hearings on the following ordinances. Jessica, it's all you.
Ordinance number 5-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 12 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend section 12-1.3 construction fees.
At this time, open to the public for any and all comments relating to this ordinance only. Please raise your hand or step forward. Seeing none on this ordinance, no one on virtual. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion. Planning and zoning, Councilman Anoha, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the public hearings to be closed and the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Zanoha,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti, Novak,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Okay, once again, I will open the public for ordinance number 6-23 after Jessica reads it.
An ordinance supplementing and amending ordinance number 435-19, fixing the salaries of certain borough officials, officers, and employees for the year 2023.
Anybody with comments on this ordinance, please step forward or raise your hand. Seeing none at this time, I'll once again entertain a motion. Administration and Finance Committee, Councilman Balca, please.
Move the public hearing be closed. The ordinance be adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Public hearing on ordinance number 7-23, an ordinance amending chapter 17 Parks and Recreational Areas to delete subsection 17-2 Borough Bathing Facilities of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville.
Anybody from the public wish to speak on this ordinance, please stand or raise your hand. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion yet again, this time from Recreation Committee, Councilwoman Novak, please.
I move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading, and advertised according to law.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoja,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we'll move to new business. We have our clerk to report on our supplemental debt statement.
Yes, I just want to report that I received a supplemental debt statement received from CFO Denise Biancamano as of April 10, 2023. I need a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoja,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Okay, with that, we're going to move forward with the introduction of the following ordinances. Jessica, please.
Ordinance number 8-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 13 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend section 13-11, permit dumping and fees.
This time I'll go over to Public Works Committee. Councilman Conti, please.
I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertising according to law, and a public hearing to be held on April 24th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Conti,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoja,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Ordinance number 9-23, an ordinance amending chapter 17 Parks and Recreational Areas to delete subsection 17-10 Saraville Community Garden to reflect that Saraville Community Garden is now codified in chapter 2, section 2-32 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville.
Recreation Committee, Councilwoman Novak, please.
I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law for a public hearing to be held on 4/24/23 prevailing time.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoja,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Bond ordinance number 10-23, bond ordinance providing for water main improvements in, by, and for the Borough of Saraville, New Jersey, appropriating $2,750,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,750,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing such appropriation.
Administration and Finance, Councilman Balca, please.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing to be held on April 24th, 2023.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoja,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
At this time, we're going to move to resolutions. I'll open to the public for any and all comments regarding consent agenda resolutions. Mr. Robinson, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square. It's not on the consent agenda, but it says public portion for approval on resolutions. It's a resolution to be read in full.
So that's a little separate, right after this.
But that section isn't listed here.
Oh, authorization. Oh,
They have to be open to the
And
public.
this section says public portion and approval on resolutions.
Yeah, so it should be specific to the
consent
resolution.
agenda.
Then there's at the end of the agenda, there's a public portion.
No, he's talking about the red and full ordinance.
Yeah.
Resos. They have separate public, if they're,
2399.
if they're read in,
Resolution be read in full.
if they're read in full, they have to have their separate public hearing.
there, so what we're gonna do, Jim, is this is just
Okay,
for
that's
those,
fine.
and then we're gonna do that one.
And
I'll call you up.
I thought that was the case, but I came
Yeah.
up because it wasn't listed as a separate.
It's broken on the, you know what, it's, I think,
Next
Jim,
page, it's listed.
hold on.
See it at the top of the next page?
Jim, I think it's just kind of caught up underneath our borough seal. Do you see it on the second page there, or is it not?
2399, top of the page.
I do, but there's no public portion on that.
That's how it's always listed.
Is what I'm
Jim.
saying.
Oh, I understand what you're saying now.
Understand?
I
Okay.
do, I
I'll come
do.
back.
I got you. Stay close. So we'll do just public portion on resolutions that are listed, and then we'll do separate public portion on both resolutions that are to be read in full. Is there anybody with comment on just the resolutions listed on the agenda? I don't see any for that, and I don't see any online, so I'll entertain a motion when it comes to those consent agenda resolutions.
I move the public portion be closed, the consent agenda resolutions be approved on roll call vote.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak.
Yes.
Valka,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Okay, now we'll move to resolutions read in full. You want number 2? Okay.
Resolution number 2023-98, a resolution of the Borough of Saraville recognizing New Jersey Local Government Week, April 16th to 22nd, 2023, and encouraging all citizens to support the celebration and corresponding activities. Whereas local government is the government closest to most citizens and the one with the most direct daily impact upon its residents, and whereas local government provides services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, making their municipality their home. And whereas local government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many responsibilities. And whereas local government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along the understanding of public services and their benefits. And whereas New Jersey Local Government Week offers an important opportunity for elected officials and local government staff to spread the word to all citizens of New Jersey that they can shape and influence this branch of government. And whereas the New Jersey State League of Municipalities and its members municipalities have joined together to teach citizens about municipal government through a variety of activities. Now therefore it be resolved by the Borough of Saraville as follows, that the Borough of Saraville encourages all citizens, local government officials, and employees to participate in events that recognize and celebrate New Jersey Local Government Week. The Borough of Saraville encourages educational partnerships between local government and schools, as well as civic groups and other organizations that the Borough of Saraville supports and encourages all New Jersey local governments to actively promote and sponsor New Jersey Local Government Week.
Okay, so at this time, I'll open to the public for any and all comments or questions regarding this resolution only. Seeing none online, and I see no one in person, so at this time, I'll entertain a
I
motion.
move the public portion be closed and the resolution adopted on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Valka,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Resolution number 2023-99, be it and it is hereby resolved that the proper borough officials are hereby authorized and directed to apply for a grant from the NJ Department of Transportation Local Transportation Project Funds 2023 in the amount of $874,000 for the construction of a pedestrian bridge on Bordentown Avenue. Be it further resolved that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the grant application on behalf of the Borough of Saraville, and that their signature constitutes acceptance of the terms and conditions of the grant agreement and approves the execution of the grant agreement.
All right, so at this time, I will accept any comments regarding this resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square in Portland. That's Bordentown Road or Bordentown Avenue?
So,
Bordentown Avenue. Okay. Where exactly will this pedestrian bridge be?
There's a small bridge that traverses a body of water between the Winding Wood apartment complex and the strip mall on the corner. It's frequented by pedestrians, that area. And that's the desire, is to achieve a safe pedestrian passage there.
Okay. And is that related to the additional traffic that
No.
will be on board? Has nothing to do
No.
with the additional
No, the
traffic? that'll
borough
be-
has been attempting to get funding for this in excess of a decade.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you for that question, Jim. Anybody else have questions on this particular resolution?
Yeah, I do. if I
Yes,
can, 'cause,
of course.
Glenn, just explain the location where that's at. Is it on the other side? Is it?
It's on the
Facing the
same
road?
side as Winding Woods. It's proximal to that pumping station we have with the big water pipes that come from Duhernal. And there's never been a provision there for any pedestrian access, so people have to leave the safety of the shoulder, get into the lane of travel to get across. And a lot of people in that neighborhood frequent the strip mall. And since it was built, I know the borough engineer's been trying to get funding for this in excess of a decade. We were actually rejected in this year's round, but then we became notified that there's another program through the DOT that would fit the criteria. And we were encouraged to aggressively pursue the application. So
I appreciate that because it wasn't completely clear. And at some point, I'm thinking we're crossing over Bordentown Avenue,
Right,
which would have been concerning. But I do agree, nearby that bridge, there is no access that's safe for someone to cross. So thank you. I appreciate the explanation.
Also,
oh, go ahead. Sorry,
do
Dan.
we have an estimate for the total cost of the project, and is there a match to the grant?
I don't believe there's a match. And this estimate, I believe, is for the construction as well as engineering fees. That was part, this application's been submitted as indicated for the past 10 years. So that was, the original cost estimate was based upon construction costs plus administrative costs.
The cost updated for current times versus.
Correct. Yes.
We have a little bit of an idea of what we're looking at as far as design and anything that maybe, I know that just for the public.
874,000 was the construction, the total grant amount. I think approximately 75 of that approximately was for engineering costs. So the construction would be about 800,000 for the bridge improvements.
And do we have do you have already basically something rough about what no, not yet.
No design, just conceptual sketches have been done over the years.
Okay, sounds good. Would you share with me and anybody else from the council that has any, I know conceptual designs are super general, but just for the purpose, if anyone had extra.
It's basically a pretty picture.
Oh, pretty picture.
It shows the location connecting point A to B.
That's it so
Just
far.
connecting 2 points together. That's all. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Very good. Any other questions? Council? All right,
The
wonderful.
public portion be closed and the resolution approved on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call, please. Oh, I missed.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Okay, at this time, I also need a motion to accept the correspondence that listed on the agenda.
Motion to receive and file all the correspondence listed on the agenda.
Is there a second? Thank you. Roll call.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
All right, at this time, we're going to move straight through to our council report, starting with administration and finance. Councilman Balca, please.
Thank you, Mayor.
Another? Oh, I'm losing my mind. You're welcome.
Our contract talks are moving ahead and there's belief that they're going to be settled sooner rather than later with our 2 outstanding groups that are still in negotiations. There's numerous grants in the works. And we have no word whether we're going to get them or not yet, but they're working on, they applied for them. Hopefully we get them. The sale of landfill is pending. We're waiting for appraisals and there should be in any day now. The public hearing on the budget is April 24th at 7 p.m. 4.5 cent increase. And some good news is that when we started this 2022, we had $10,200,000 in surplus and we ended the year with $14,339,000. So that should help us in the future budgets since we're losing some one-shot revenues this year. Other than that, progress.
Thank you very much for that, Councilman Balca. We're going to move to public safety, and that is Councilman Roberts, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, again, recognize New Jersey Local Government Week, April 16th through the 22nd. And we do have a lot of things to be proud of in Sayreville that are coming up. For example, the Historic Society will have Arbor Day. We are a tree city. For Arbor Day, they will be giving out seedlings to the community as they do every year. Earth Day, we started a memorial tree program for residents who wish to plant a tree in memory of someone, and it must be placed on borough property. There's also an annual creative art contest and a poetry contest that we run in Sayreville that we can be proud of under the Historical Society. I can't say enough about our police, fire, and emergency. Our police do have a number of things coming up, and I think I may have lost that piece of paper that had that part on it, but I know that Lieutenant Novak has great outreach that he's doing, programs and videos for the community. He did one with, that I think was very popular with the dog that was rescued. So that's a great opportunity for outreach. We have the Adult Police Academy, and during the summer, we're going to have the Junior Police Academy. And I cannot say enough about our fire and emergency, some of which are here tonight. All volunteer, just give up your time and your talent to the community. So I can't say enough about that. So I'm hoping we get to highlight a lot of you during that week and show our appreciation. I'm also been told we have someone in our chambers, Marina, who had brought to my attention that this is Autism Awareness Month as well as Limb Loss Awareness Month. It's for those who have lost limbs. And Marina is an advocate for people that are suffering with different challenges. Marina also offered offered us, anyone here, that through Hugh Giordano, is it all right if I mention that? You think, Marina? He has offered us a tour of the facility in Woodbridge that has the medical marijuana, where they do all that. So if anyone here is interested in a tour, we would have to have background checks first, but he would be very happy to provide that tour for anyone who would like to take it. I do want to say I did attend the planning board also. So a couple of things just to talk about for our Bass Pro Shop and for Riverton. Bass Pro has the new footprint you heard about last council meeting. We brought up, they presented at CIRA, so they also presented at the planning board, the new footprint and how wonderful it's going to look from every direction. No one's going to see the truck bays. So they've done a little bit of change around there, and they did a subdivision for the transfer station for the power for Riverton. So it's a couple of small changes. So it's moving forward, very exciting. And I believe I was missing something. Oh, I did have one question, Denise, a follow-up from last meeting about the funding that we pull from the vape shops now. There is a licensing fee, and the ordinance did state that it would go for programs for education. I was wondering if that's something we would be able to use for safe, for the municipal alliance?
Inquired from the state. I shot an email and they shot me an email back saying no. So, right.
Okay.
Maybe we can find other funding though, where we can anticipate maybe in next year's budget. We can put in a line item or something on the appropriation side and just set aside, some money. Obviously this year it's too late, but for next year, and I suggest we get together and all and set up a line item and put, whatever amount, a couple $1,000s to start with in there so that we can move forward with it.
And
Does that impact our ordinance though, if it
well, I was
listed
gonna
that?
say, do you mind if I ask our attorney if that language was specifically put in the ordinance that the fees would be used towards education? Is there any leverage we can have with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's CFO pointed out, it's set aside dedicated fund, but there's nothing that the US recognized saying, we're putting this chunk of money aside, dedicated in the budget for it. That's why it's.
All right, we'll look into that then. Thank you.
And we are going to look into that ordinance a little bit more deeply because we have to make possibly some amendments to the convenience store clause that we had in there when we had our discussion about what we were going to do in reference to convenience stores, I think selling product or other type of paraphernalia. Is that the right word? Paraphernalia, I think I'm going with today. So I think we are going to have to take a look at that. Let's review that all again as a council, and that way we can bring through any questions and have a discussion up here and make that amendment as needed. All right.
And just to leave it on a positive note again, New Jersey Local Government Week, and hopefully we can show off the good things that we do accomplish here.
Absolutely. Let's take a look. Is anything else you wish to add, Councilwoman Roberts?
No, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. We're going to move to Public Works then. Councilman Conti, please.
Thank you. So I too want to echo those sentiments about recognizing Local Government Week. I think the support we get from our borough workers is tremendous, very responsive, very appreciative of all your efforts. When we need something, our government workers are there for us, to support us, to help us, to guide us. And, I just really appreciate that from folks that are here and across our town. Oh, well, I'm sure that they know our clerk's office is fabulous and always appreciative. I know I text them at odd hours sometimes and they respond, which is great. I do appreciate that. To that point, I want to thank Denise and Glenn as well for sitting with me on Thursday at 4 o'clock to talk about the budget. Me not realizing you guys were off on Friday, and I kind of held you over on the day before one of those long weekends. So I appreciate you not rushing me and just taking the time to show that to me, which is which is the way we should be doing things, right? Give me a good understanding if I've got questions and show me the way and just help guide me so I can make more informed decisions. So I really do appreciate that. A couple of things. So I want to, I love experiencing nice things around our town. I think our people, our residents, when you dig in deep to some of our residents, you find a lot of good people. You just got to go, sometimes you got to just get involved and you find some of these folks. So I just wanted to recognize a Good Samaritan. Now I don't know the person's name, so they just did this and were nice, just were being nice. So a neighbor of mine, he had lost the keys to his car, drove off with them on top of his car and lost them. So he and I went out looking for the keys and we figured that they were gone and, either somebody took it. Those car keys are expensive. And we figured that somebody took them. And he went out a second time and then sure enough, he found them sitting on top of a fire hydrant. So whoever found them just took the time to put them someplace where somebody could find them. And he went there, he found them, took a picture, sent it to me, he said, by golly, there they are. So there's a Good Samaritan out there on the corner of Harrison and Stevenson. So whoever that person was, we really do appreciate your, being a Good Samaritan. That's very nice of you. All right, so what else? Met with one of our residents over on First Street, lovely woman by the name of Esther, talking about a couple of things that she had going on there, which again, that's a thing that I like to do. You've got some issues, you've got some concerns you want to talk, call me up or come out and stop by, much as the, Sergeant Braille always does too. Anytime I had an issue, he'd go out and visit somebody and talk to them about issues. A lot of us like to do the same thing. So I met with her about her concerns. And I want to thank the folks in DPW because I had told them that a couple of holes in front of her house in the street. And sure enough, the following day they were out there in the morning and she let me know that, they were there. And so I appreciate the teamwork there. When we want to do things that help a resident, we do need the support. I can't get out there with Mary and Donna and start filling potholes. We need our folks to do their part. Well, we could, but we do a lousy job. But we do need others, the support from our borough workers, and we always get it, which is good. So they do whatever's that they can do. I can't always solve every problem that's out there. And I'm never going to tell a person yes to everything just because it's unreasonable. But we'll try and figure out a way through it. So I talked with Jay and DPW, and we'll look into some ideas to solve other problems. But I just wanted to thank her for being such a sweet person in speaking to me about her issues. And then we addressed at least part of it. So let's see what else. So Shade Tree, they got a lot going on. I know, Donna, you mentioned some of that, but they are honing in on memorial trees. So as soon as that happens, I'll let you guys know. And then, we could certainly pay tribute by passing by the memorials. They are looking to, and I appreciate, again, DPW, Phil and Richie over there in Parks, working with Art and the Shade Tree about, thoughts and ideas, locations. They're going to be planting about anywhere from 100 to 130 trees between now and June, which is great, along the parking lot in Kennedy Park. What else? There'll be mature trees as well. So, where one tree goes down, another tree goes up, which is the way we've got to do it. We've got to keep those trees out there for us. It's, and as I said, mature trees, which is good. What else? 100 to 150 trees soon that we have commitment to plant them along MacArthur to freshen up that area. So I'm delighted about that. We'll be even more delighted when we see them go up. That will certainly help out that area. I know you mentioned Arbor Day and the seedlings, April 29th. A lot of things to be given away there. The art contest, April 28th. in the Active Adult Center. So that is good as well. Let me see if we've got anything else here. Let's see. I know they're gonna be planting in the Jerry Us complex as well. I think they're, let me see. Yeah, they're gonna go through they're gonna survey the parks and figure out what's needed, where we need additional plans. So again, working together to beautify our town, which is great. That's what I like to see. And Ed, good old Ed from Shade Tree, recommended we create a map of the trees we have planted, so we could see the activity around town, which is great. Earth Day cleanup, I think that was mentioned as well, April 22nd. So get out there and help, get involved, and see what you could do to, we've got a lot of people who ask for things across our town. There's lots of opportunity there to get involved and to help out the town, help beautify, and just help the folks that are doing right by Sayreville, get out there and volunteer and help out. And that's it from me. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Conti. Recreation, Councilwoman Novak, please.
Yes, I'd just like to say that we had, as everybody knows, our Easter egg hunt was rained out. But I'll tell you, we waited till the last minute, Brian did, before he called it, and we had it inside, and I was a little concerned. But wow, I've never seen people that can change at, a split second. It worked out so well. Everybody had a good time. Recreation Advisory Board that did all of the work, that they stuffed, 7,000 eggs? They found it cheaper. Instead of buying eggs that are already stuffed, they did it themselves. Their fingers are all full of Band-Aids. I can't tell you enough how wonderful, how organized it was, and everybody was commenting. Also, let me see what's happening. The next thing for recreation will be May 6th at Kennedy Park. Registration is at 8:30 for the fishing derby, all ages 3 to 15. And I understand that the community policing will be out there again with loaner fishing poles and helping the kids put the worms on their hooks. Wouldn't be me. That's really great. Also, from the HRC, same day, 10 o'clock, the fun run, just at the other side of the park, down by the boat ramp. So pray for good weather, and because God has the answers to those. Okay, boat ramp. We have been, became acutely aware of the amount of boats that were being put in the water and nobody had permits. They issued many, many, many violations. We're starting the people early this year. There will be somebody out there on weekends, and then after Memorial Day, they will have them out there 7 days a week. Also, library. An awful lot of people don't realize that our library has just so many things going on for adults, for kids. It's amazing. And if you don't go on the website a lot of times or read those little things in the local papers, when nobody reads papers anymore, the library just got this great sign out in front. So every time you go past now and it's really bright, it's going to tell you what's going to happen, during that month. So that was well worth the money, and it really has helped a lot more participation in the library services. Also, we are going to be doing the parking lot there. It's not going to be a complete redo, but they will be taking out sections and redoing it, so people will be happy about that. So we don't have anybody tripping in it. I did the other night. And let's see, we didn't have a Sarah meeting, so there's nothing to report on that. So other than that, Mayor, progress.
Thank you very much. Now moving on to water, sewer, and environmental. Councilman Zabrowski.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. I just have two brief comments for water and sewer. Just a general reminder that hydrant flushing is scheduled to begin the week of April 17th. It's going to last about 3 weeks. It'll be taking place between 6 p.m. and 1 a.m. Within those areas, Monday through Thursday only. Social media will be provided and notifications will go out to those affected areas. Secondly, our Sustainable Sayreville Commission, the Green Team, met last week for the first time after their reorganization. Their expectations are centered around the Sustainable New Jersey Commission, which when they utilize those guidelines for their various activities in town. A big component to sustainability is education, representing an essential element for change. And the commission is going to start with an educational sustainable action entitled Animals in Our Community, and create a podcast, play on word, PAWD, cast, spotlighting responsible community stewardship towards wildlife, as well as responsible domesticated pet ownership. So look forward to more of that information coming out, and the podcast from our green team. And Mayor, that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councilman Zabrowski, Planning and Zoning Council President Anoa, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. So far, I think maybe Councilman Roberts or someone touched on it in the meeting, but in our last planning board meeting, we had the opportunity to review a few applications for the Brass Pro Shops building and additional adjustments in some sections of the Riverton Village complex or redevelopment area. And I think what made that meeting kind of unique is additional exposure for a lot of the new members to see applications connected to such an area in our borough. So that was really unique and appreciative, and want to especially send additional congratulations to the new members of the planning board. I think we were able to welcome in a new one in our last meeting as well, and looking forward to more progress as we receive new applications for planning and zoning. But thank you, and progress so far.
Thank you for that, Council President. That leads to my report at this time. I only have a couple of things I'd like to bring up. First and foremost, it is Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. To our dispatchers, thank you so much. It's only a week. How is that possible? That's a year-long celebration, because without our dispatchers taking those calls, then our first responders can't do what they need to do in order to keep our community and our residents safe. So thank you to all of our dispatchers out there. Then I have three things on my very, very short piece of paper here. We mentioned the library property. Mary, that was you. I just had a quick question actually regarding our property line over there and exactly what is ours and what is not, because there's a lot of, if you're looking at the library going towards the middle school, a lot of the kids use that path in order to walk down to the library, get themselves over to the high school or home. There are a lot of trees down. The debris is really quite concerning. I don't know if that is Board of Ed property or if that is library property. Can we take a look at that? I'm just worried about it from a safety perspective. If it is our property, number one, cleanup is most important, but I think we need to do a thorough investigation on the tree safety and the health of those trees. Especially with some of the pretty wicked storms we've been having. Who would have thought that here in New Jersey, we'd be looking at 7 or so tornadoes? Weathers are changing, and I know that whole area there is sometimes concerning. So if it is our property, we can hopefully come up with some ideas of how we can better utilize it. If it's not, then maybe we can reach out to the BOE and find out what they can do in order to get that a little cleaner. The other thing also I know is ours, but I don't know how often we have maintained it since the change in weather. The black path that we installed between Burks Park and the middle school, and we also added lighting to it. It was brought to my attention that some of the lights over there, the glass covers may have shattered. So there is glass on that path. I know our DPW does a great job at taking care of that. So that was just brought to my attention, oh God, like 4 o'clock today. So we could just take a look at that, because a lot of kids utilize that space. I do see that I have some of my Melrose friends here today. I'll just touch on it briefly, and then ladies, I'll let you come up, and anybody else that you have with you. So they already started doing the tree removal over by the Melrose section by Cross Avenue, and I have gotten several resident complaints regarding the truck and the heavy equipment that's being utilized over there where the residential roads are. So I'll let the ladies come up, but I do think we need to take a look at how we can minimize disruption to our residential streets. I know it's going to be tough to do, but I was grateful to hear that the porta potties were actually removed, so they were not out in front of that you've been handling.
Well, I also did a follow-up today with Jay and Kirk Mick. They're not doing any construction currently. They're just taking samples. They're drilling for bore samples at least 6 months before you see any kind of legitimate vertical construction going on there. I will ask the construction official to go out again tomorrow and see if there's a better way to get the equipment to access the site. I can't make any promises. I'm not an engineer, nor do I play one on TV, but we've got great professionals that'll take a look. And if there's a reasonable alternative, we'll make that happen.
Okay, and I'll let the ladies come up. So just as far as like parking and utilizing that space, let's hopefully we can find another spot. I'll call you up in public portion in a minute, so that way you guys can add exactly. But when I make a promise, I'm going to bring it up, I bring it up for you guys. Let's see, I think that's it. I only have those three pieces. And I will echo Mary's comments. Excellent job with the Easter egg hunt that was quickly moved indoors. It is the hardest, longest amount of prep work for the shortest reward, because I think those eggs are gone in approximately 6.9 seconds, depending on the age group. But it's super exciting to turn around and see all the videos posted and all the kids walking on. I mean, I think they enjoyed the wood floor for the sliding purposes as well. But it is always fun to turn around and see the kids do that. Thank you to everybody on recreation, because yeah, if you're stuffing those eggs and then you're watching them gone, seconds. Good work. With that, we're going to move to our public portion. So if anybody would like to come up and speak on any and all issues, feel free to step up. Ladies, since I gave a segue, come on up. Of course. Yes, I'll just ask that you both give your name and addresses for the record.
I'm Beverly Mierzwiak, 165 Oak Street.
You get that, Jess?
175 Oak Street, Eva.
Yeah, but a little louder. 175 Oak Street.
Yes, Eva.
Gotcha, Eva. Okay.
Our concern is 2 weeks ago, a bunch of trucks show up. I guess they're doing remediation. Is that what they're doing right now?
Is that what you meant by, what is it, Jay?
As part of the sale to the developer, National Ed had to do remediation on the property. So that's probably what you're seeing
That's
is
what it looks
National
like.
Ed doing cleanup work on the site.
And the problem is that Oak Street runs into Gorsica, which is a cul-de-sac. So you're in and out right, from Oak Street. And they come in about, 7 or 8 trucks parked there, 6:30 in the morning, and they're there all day, I guess. When I get home at 5, they're not there. They look before. Yeah, and they have their equipment. They brought some equipment in and the street is dirty. The thing is, if they could park on Raritan Street, they wouldn't be bothering anyone. It's such a disruptive to our neighborhood. It was so nice to have the woods there and it's quiet. I know it's going to be gone soon, but
I know.
right now it's summer. You want to be at your house and do stuff. If they could park by Cross in that area or Raritan and go in that way, it would be so much better.
So much easier.
Yeah.
Jay and Glenn, can you take a look at those other options? You're looking at 6 or 7 heavy machinery, like heavy trucks.
Yeah, they brought last week, Monday morning. They have to, tractor trailer came with the machines on the back, and they have to move our garbage cans because they couldn't turn around. That's one. 2, they're leaving on my side. They're walking on my grass. I mean, it's between sidewalk and the street, that's my grass, so they're walking on that. So they're destroying my grass, so I have to reseed it and everything else. So I appreciate it if they can park someplace else, I'm sorry.
And they're just parking the vehicles there, but then using that as access point in order to.
I have pictures, I took pictures. I had to go with the blower and the broom and clean after them.
Yeah, so, and they're there every day, so they should be there tomorrow. All right, Glenn, you got an early morning to start. So Glenn, take a look, he'll be there. Ladies, I know that there was also concern now that they are doing remediation work over there. Dust, debris and things like that, I know was a concern you had brought up to me, Eva, so.
Yes, I have a garden, I have fruit trees. Do I gonna be safe to eat those stuff?
Do we know anything about what our EPA cleanup entails
No,
or?
but we can have their LSRP licensed site remediation professional reach out to them and address any of their concerns. They should have one on site.
And share that with myself and anybody else from the council. We should really know what it is they're looking to remediate. I don't really know. We know it was the National Lead Site. So,
And there
you
is
know,
there
who
is
knows?
a park across the street. I have a grandson, 8 months old. He's
Yeah.
putting his mouth, fingers to his mouth. So I'm afraid to go now to the park and the swing set. Are they gonna come and clean everything? How I just, it just blows my mind. Do I have to power wash my house, sidewalks? I really don't know what to do anymore. You know, when they're gonna start building, they're gonna start taking this dirt, what's contaminated and what's gonna happen?
And are they going to park right in front of our house when they start building,
So this is
that's my
something we're going to have to
concern.
actively monitor. I mean, Melrose is difficult to get in and out of anyway. Plus, again, people don't have those long driveways. So street access is very important. It's a tight space. So we are going to need to definitely reach out to those developers. The residents deserve to have the least disruption to their daily life, but more importantly, finding out what it is those EPA cleanups include and something that might have to get noticed to our residents. But they should definitely be communicating with us as well, so we can make sure that you guys feel
Is it
safe.
safe to sit outside? Now it's warm weather, you want to sit down, eat your dinner, cheeseburger outside. And I don't know if it's safe. I really, in Thomas Avenue, there's 11 houses. From those 11 houses, 7 people that got diagnosed with the cancer. From those 7 people, it's only 1 survivor.
Wow.
I really don't know what to think anymore. Do I have to sell my house and move someplace else? Or I moved here because I felt comfortable living here and safe. I don't feel this anymore. 33 years, I don't
Yeah.
feel safe.
No, understood. I mean, it's right now a triangle of redevelopment that definitely directly impacts Melrose. You clearly have Riverton, which is not that far away. Now you have the NL site, and yes, and we know what that area is like. You had Carborundum. My grandfather worked there. He died from asbestosis, so I definitely think we need to.
I think from an environmental standpoint, the residents should not be worried as far as contamination blowing through the air, going in the park, going on your houses. That's not the type of contamination that's on the site. That's not a chemical facility. That was a water plant. And they had iron that they took out of the water. So there's iron deposits in the soil. So that's the type of cleanup that they're doing. But I think as was indicated, the LSRP that's overseeing that, we can have them reach out to you and just explain. The work that's going on now is not borough jurisdiction. It's DEP jurisdiction. Once the actual residential development takes place, that's the plans that were approved by the planning board. There's soil erosion, sediment control measures, all kinds of things that the borough would have jurisdiction over. But in the meantime, we can try to get the other issues addressed by talking to LSRP and also maybe making you more aware of what exactly they're doing and what the potential impacts, if any, are on you. But I don't believe there's really anything you have to worry about from that standpoint.
If we were to reach out, get the information that we need from the LSRP, and then since this directly impacts obviously Melrose, as we get more of that information in order to make sure that the residents feel like they're being as informed as possible, we have the firehouse over there, and we also have, our facilities, depending on how big. It might behoove us all to actually allow the Melrose community to actually have a community meeting. So that way you get the information that you need, and at least we won't have the speculation, but rather you'll have the real information about what is safe, what isn't safe, what you can do. In addition to Glenn stopping by tomorrow morning early and taking a look at what's going on with the trucks and the heavy equipment. How does that sound, ladies? Anybody have objection from the council in reference to that? Okay. Anything else?
For now.
That's it? Can we post it? I get to see her, so she lets me know you're coming today. All right, thank you, ladies. Anybody else, other issues? All the way in the back. Come on up, sir. You're welcome.
Ken Hackler, Haklar, 24 Lee Avenue, which is the southbound side of Route 9. My question is there any plan to do anything to Hilltop/Lee Avenue? Because the patch and pray system is not working anymore. I'm tired. No, I have no issue. I call, they patch the holes, which is fine, but the patch and pray is not working anymore. I believe it's a good 30 years since that road has been paved. So that's issue number one. And I know Mr. Conti was just speaking of the potholes, so that's the main thing. The second issue concerning the potholes is when I call, and I know there's other people on the street that call, you give your name and your address. And it seems like when the Public Works comes out, they'll only fill the hole in front of the address. You'll go up the rest of the street and the other holes. Now, I don't know how often any of you guys are going up and down Lee Avenue. I mean,
I
I've
used to
lived there
go a
all
lot.
my life. So I have an issue with that. The other thing is, if you have it in the records, we do have a street sweeping vehicle in this town, correct? Okay, would somebody please check if you can go back? You might have to go back 30 years when the last time the street was swept. Because you could come in front of my house right now and you could open up a quarry with the amount, and I'm not picking them up. To be honest with you, you could open up a quarry with the amount of stone from the potholes,
Potholes come
especially
out.
down that lower end where I am. I'm right on basically the second house from the corner of Route 9. And the other thing would be, we were here many years ago, some other people from the street. I know Ms. Novak, you were on here. Mr. Cornell was on. The traffic on that street is atrocious. I realize it's a main thoroughfare. It's basically part of Route 9 as far as I'm concerned. But I can live with the cars. It is what it is. What I can't live with, since I'm on the corner, especially in the summer, when the traffic backs up from 9, maybe up to Hilltop, the people blowing the horns because the people aren't pulling out on Route 9, which is not an accelerating, there's no like, I'll be honest with you, I want to go out to some of them people and walk up to the window, go, give me your address, because I want to come over to your house and blow the horn. I don't need to hear all this nonsense from you people.
Right.
So, and the other, lately, I've noticed that if you go on the corner of Hilltop and on the corner by Lee Avenue, there is a sign, there's signs, no vehicles over the 4 tons.
Yep.
Before you see them, but the trucks are there. But I've noticed recently, I think this is attributed to a lot of the truck, I don't know what a 4-ton vehicle is, the dump truck. I think a lot of trucks are missing either the cutoff down by the church down
Oh,
there,
yeah.
or they're missing the Raritan Street cutoff to go to Kennedy Boulevard.
Mhm.
So they're getting off a 35 onto 9 and they're just coming up Lee Avenue. But I've noticed recently it's gotten worse coming from Hilltop back to Lee Avenue. And I've actually spoken to a few neighbors who've said they felt the same thing, tractor trailers,
Mhm.
dump trucks. So I was just wondering, my
they
main
should be
concern is the pothole, the condition of the
Potholes
street.
first, yeah.
But there's other conditions. When we were here years ago, Chief, you were the chief then. I'm not sure. I think because they might have done the study with the box, because it was probably at least 10 years ago. Again, I realize that's a major thoroughfare for the police, for the fire department and everything else.
Right, that's different though than what you're saying.
We have to live with the traffic. It is what it is. But the tractor trailers or the heavy vehicles that are going
Yes.
up. And my point is, so if you're not going to fix the street and the vehicles are going up and down, the street's just getting worse. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's probably streets that the Romans built 2,000 years ago that are in better shape than that street. And that's basically it. I've been living there all my life, basically. But the one main pothole is literally right behind my drive.
Oh, my gosh. That's your every morning.
So, like I said, it is what it is. I understand that. When I call, and I've called numerous times, they come out and patch them, but I'm to the point now, like I said, the patch and pray, it's not working anymore. So I was just wondering, is there any plans to do any kind of major repaving at some point here, or?
So we brought Hilltop up because I know I've driven in there over the pre-COVID because we've had people come up
You know what it was,
pre-COVID.
Mayor? Hilltop, from the bottom of Hilltop up to the top where it straightens out.
Yeah.
Public Service did work there 2 years ago and they paved that portion of it.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
that's my
I
other
wish they
friend.
would-
Yeah.
they paved
Yeah.
that like I don't know, a quarter of a mile or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But they did work
it's the
there.
other part.
But
Yep.
it's mainly the Lee Avenue, not so much down the dead end side from Hilltop to 9, and
Mhm.
then from the top of Hilltop out to Washington Road. And
Right.
that's the other issue, where Hilltop and Washington Road meet. I
Meet, yeah.
realize Washington Road's a county road. We're a borough road.
Yeah.
A lot of holes accumulate there, and then I don't know if we patch them or the county's got to come and patch them, but it's mainly it's not tolerable anymore.
Right,
I
of
really feel
course.
like something should be done there at this point.
And so Jay, like I said, that I remember my good friend, Mr. Lucchese, we always love when we work with him. That was a big sticking point pre-COVID that we fought for that point. And I knew that the rest of Hilltop was literally like war torn. They clearly have the complaints. I know you have the complaints because
no,
the
I know
complaints
other
were there
people, yeah,
before. And
yeah,
that's one of the things we use in order to elevate those road repairs. Do we have an idea on where the remainder of Hilltop into Lee and so on is with our road repair?
Don't, Mayor, I have the list that Public Works generated last year, and the top 20 at Hilltop and Lee are not in that top 20. They're probably not far below that. But typically what happens is after you adopt your capital budget, this list is reworked based upon complaints that they get over the year. So
Right.
once you adopt your budget and want to decide which roads are going to be done with the next round of funding, we can ask Public Works to take another look at that area to see if it possibly could be included.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
that's the first thing
When
then.
I had Public Works there maybe 2 months ago, I asked the fellas, I said, listen, did any of you ever hear any kinds of like chatter that some kind of work is going to get done here? And they said, no, we don't hear anything. And I said, well, what's my like option? Just keep calling? And the gentleman said, yeah, just keep calling. We'll come up and patch it. I said, okay.
Yeah,
fair
but
enough."
that's temporary and that's
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
things we've
yeah.
had also through COVID. I know that with the budget freeze and things like that, it did change a little bit of what we did with our road repair. But at this point, yeah, we need to, if you haven't driven through Hilltop,
Yeah, Hilton, yeah.
please do so from the council perspective, because it's worse. And I was there only probably about a month ago.
Yeah.
I try to avoid the area, quite frankly, because
And again, yes,
it's bad.
like I said, for the people on the street, but the traffic there has progressively over years gotten worse. But the trucks lately have caused, again, there's not really, it's mostly us older citizens. There's not really a lot of kids on that street anymore.
Right.
There's a few, and they're not like they're out running around on the road. But again, with the traffic, the people are coming down Hilltop. There's a stop sign there.
right. They don't
One
stop.
out of every 5 is stopping. They're in the left side of the lane instead of the right side. So when you go to make the turn, when they're there, then they're looking at you like you got 3 heads because you're like, get on, the side.
Yeah.
Again, I realize we have no control over that, but that's it. That's all I really have.
So first thing, clearly we need to make sure our signage is as clear as can
Very
be.
done.
Second thing, we
First
need
thing.
to reach out,
We're gonna forget that
obviously.
in Melrose.
There you go. You're gonna be very busy. So road repair, at least we're on the dot. You
All right, good.
understand where we can go with that.
Very good.
Okay. Keep coming back and visiting or like make it, just in case you think we forgot. More importantly though, just reach out to, after you do your investigation and come up with plans. Make sure you leave your contact info so we can get back. to you.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Have a fine evening.
You too. Jess is gonna give you a piece of paper just for contact info and that way Glenn will get back to you. That's all right. Just over to the side is fine. Anybody else from the public wish to speak on any other issues? Come on up, Mr. Duffy. I don't see anybody online, do you? Okay.
Bob Duffy, 111 Merritt Avenue. First, I want to thank Township for having the egg hunt. I got plenty of candy in my house. My granddaughter was
What
very
age group
excited
did you
over.
jump into, Mr. Duffy?
Yeah. Well, we got to keep those dentists intact. I'd like to go over a few things with just this gentleman before me was with the roads in town.
Nightmare.
Apparently, Jay has a list of roads all the time. It's always that list. I think that list has been around for about 10, 20 years, even back further. I don't think it's working. I think we need to come up with another solution. Either get bond money, grant money. I think, like I said a long time ago, when I fought the lights at the tennis courts, you're gonna have the lights for the tennis courts, but you ain't gonna have a road to get there. So I would think someone's got to come together or have a meeting and try to settle this, because it's not going to get better.
Most of what I've seen, I agree with you. We got to get creative with where we get our money from, because the taxpayer offset is never enough. When I started here 10 years ago as a council person, it was a $2 million road improvement budget. We forced it to 3, and now we're up to what?
There's 5.
5. But it takes 2, and the cost of those improvements are just too enormous.
I grant you, because
We need it.
let's just take hypothetical. If you did every bad road in town this year, 20 million. Well,
Easy.
well, what do you think it's going to cost next year? What do you think it's going to cost the year after? You can't even keep up to the increase.
What's also good
Well, you
is,
need to budget more money or do something.
and we need to turn around and look at the developers that are coming in that are doing these developments and putting stress on our roadways and our systems. Sit down and negotiate additional improvements that need to be done.
When you had that building on Lake Avenue down there, the tall building.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I fought that
Lakeview.
the contractor should have gave X amount of money to the fire department, because we didn't have a fire truck to reach the top. So after they approved that, then the council asked for money for a fire truck. I think it was at that time, $750,000. You know, the contractors know they can go here and get what they want without costing anything. But the roads are a big issue. You just need to put the heads together or do something, you know? Get a case of beer, sit at a table and come up with a solution.
Just so you know, we do actively pursue grants for the roads. And so in addition to the money that we spend directly, we get grants. Pulaski Avenue, we had grants for the whole thing, it was a total of $1 million, right? And then we had grants from MacArthur Avenue when we redid that road. Down by Algier, didn't we get grant money for that?
We just talked last meeting about this
Right.
again.
Yep, that's right, the South Minisink Avenue. So we are, actively pursuing grants through our grant, mostly through CME, but
Right.
through our grant writer also. So that's always an addition to what we spend.
Okay, you're pursuing the grants. That's great. It ain't working. It ain't working. So you gotta do something. You know, you got a big fire, you got a hose, but it's a garden hose. It ain't putting the fire out. You gotta get a bigger hose. So just keep that in the back of your mind, because it's not gonna get better. It's like glasses you put on your eyes. Your eyes don't get better. The glasses get thicker.
True. Thanks, Mr. Duffy. Anybody else from the public? Come on up, Jim.
Thanks, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square. I've noticed lately there are a lot of streetlights out.
Yes.
Now, I know that, and we're billed, I think we're billed whether they're on or not, right? They don't meter them, so we pay a flat fee. I think it's $3 a month, right? Isn't that something like that?
I don't know what the flat fee is, but yes, we are billed whether they're operational.
Yeah, it's a long time since I've been involved in it. And I know when Michelle was on the council, when she put that problem thing on the website, I suggested that you'd be able to report streetlights out. And I've done that when they're on Jackson Avenue or something like that. Right now, there are 5 streetlights out on North Ernston Road. That's a heavily traveled road. People drive too fast there. A few years ago, there were some streetlights out and 2 poles were taken down. So that's how the lights got fixed.
I agree with you. There's.
I mean, it's a public safety matter. I mean, we all remember the Gail Scholar, well, some of us remember the Gail Scholar situation in Piscataway years ago, and we all improved lights because of that. Don't we have somebody in public, and on Ernston Road, for instance, I won't stop at night and get a poll number. And nobody should unless you happen to have lights on the roof of your car or something like that. But can't we do something so that citizens don't have to report these things, that somebody in public safety can go out and say,
It used to,
Lights
go
been out
ahead,
for a while.
Glenn.
Our police department did a street light survey within the last 60 days. All of the lights that were out at that time were identified and submitted to Jersey Central for repair. I'll follow up with Tina Early from Jersey Central and find out when we have a realistic expectation of that work being completed. But we are on top of it. The police gathered the data and it was submitted easily
well,
60 days
I
ago.
think it was a few hundred lights, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember, Chief? Was it over 200? I think it was over 200. It was huge. And I know that they said that they were behind, because I remember the report, Glenn, I think that you gave. Yeah, it must have been, yeah, it was you. And the response was, well, we're behind. Okay, that's great, but this is a public safety issue. I come over the Edison Bridge constantly. The lights are out on the bridge and going underneath where they're doing road work by, the 287 and all that. So as soon as you're coming into Saraville, there's pockets of darkness on very, very high traveled roads, and it's dangerous. It's scary.
and it's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
a Public
That's-
safety issue. That's why I raised it. And I know they can expedite those lists. Years ago, the president of JCP&L used to be a friend of mine. I'd call him and say, Steve Morgan was his name. And they'd fix them the next day.
Mhm.
But he's now in Jamaica running a power company or something like that, and can't do that for me, but they can expedite that. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think it'll help safety. A couple meetings ago, I wasn't here, but there was a discussion about making the chairman of the planning board a Sarah board member. And then prior to that, there was a discussion about my friend Bernie Bailey being appointed to Sarah. And Mary, I think you said because it would be good to have somebody on Sarah who was on the planning board. I was here for that. I didn't say anything. I probably should have. Might be a good idea. Unfortunately, I don't think it has the added benefit of being legal. And this has come up a few times with the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board. And I think it's 4055B-23 that talks about the Class 4 members can hold no other office or position or employment in the municipality. So since this comes up and I sent an email to everybody, I think, since this comes up a lot, can we ask the attorney to take a look at that and give you a definitive ruling so that if you're considering somebody, while it might be well-intentioned, the idea might be, although I can see, sometimes you can have somebody who's on Sarah, who's on the planning board, and maybe they become too powerful. I can see a problem there too, but the coordination is a good thing. But can we do a little bit of research and get some opinion on that so that, this doesn't keep coming up meeting after meeting after meeting?
I have no problem leaning to my left and asking our great attorney over
Sure.
here, take a look at that, please.
So you want to know whether somebody who sits on is the
Both of-
chairman.
As a redevelopment agency
Okay.
or in any other capacity,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And then on another land use board as well.
And that section of the statute is very complex, but the part that really applies to us, because we don't have these other things, says if you're a Class 4 member,
Yeah, it's the class 4
hold any
member
other
designation.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he keeps it in his mind, but the statute number,
4055B-23.
I don't know how he knows that and how he rambles it off, but I guess it's like me with core curriculum content standards. I can give you
And-
those.
The last thing, I wasn't at the meeting, but I heard there was discussion about overtime on
Unisys murder.
And I know I was involved years ago when, Timothy Wiltsey case and Nancy Noga case. I was more involved in town affairs. And I know there was a lot of overtime, and there should be on something like that. Somebody asked me, and I did not know the answer to it. So do we know what we have spent on overtime on the wall on Cheesequake Road? And do we know if we're any closer to solving that?
We could work on getting you that number tomorrow. Would have to have payroll pull those records, and as far as status of the case.
Yeah, not if it's difficult and not exacting, just a, ballpark, because I just thought, I'd never heard those kind of numbers before. And are the state police involved in that, to your
They
knowledge?
were, I don't know if they still are. The chief is here, perhaps he can.
And the state police still are involved in the wall investigation? That's interesting. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. All right, anybody else from the public? Ken?
Thank you, Mayor. Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. The item on here about the construction of a pedestrian bridge on Bordentown Avenue. What can you tell me about that? What location is that proposed to be?
We did go over that a little bit earlier,
Oh, I'm
but I know
sorry.
that you
I
weren't
was-
here.
I was
saw-
not awake. I was late tonight, but
There's a
ahead.
bridge on Bordentown Avenue between Winding Wood Apartments and the strip mall on the corner of Bordentown and Journey Mill.
got it.
That particular bridge does not have any accommodation for pedestrian traffic outside of the traveled roadway. The town's been trying to get that funded in excess of 10 years. We became aware of this grant with a high likelihood of award, and we got permission tonight to move forward with applying for that, which the grant amount will cover the design and construction in its totality.
Is there an existing, did you say?
There's an existing bridge, but the bridge does not have a sidewalk or anybody walking from Winding Wood to the strip mall or the reverse location has to walk in the traveled portion of the roadway because there's a rather deep ditch there, carries tidal water, I would imagine. Tennant Brook.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah. My next question, not going to be here later, but it's on the next agenda. Wanted to ask, the authorization to engage Phoenix Advisors in regards to a pilot application for arsenal trade. When was that pilot application submitted?
Yeah, it is on next meeting, but we are in the public portion. Do we want to save that discussion for the next meeting or do we want to?
Up to you.
I mean, I don't have an issue because it's a topic we can talk about at the next meeting, but this is the public portion for any and all comments, so.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
reason that I'm bringing it
Yeah,
up, Mayor.
so
Yes, thank you.
I mean, go ahead, Ken, rather than making you sit back down and come back up, we might as well just address it now.
Yeah, well, my first question is, when was the application from Arsenal Trade submitted for this pilot?
It was apparently submitted by letter in May of 22. I became aware of it last Tuesday or Wednesday.
And take me back to May of 22. Where was construction of the Arsenal buildings at that point? Was it started? Were the
Don't
trees
believe
down?
so, but
Or
I'm gonna have to
do we have
rely
any
on Jay
idea
for that.
where that was, Jay?
Well, I could just clarify. It was on the council agenda, December 13th, 2021 is when the pilot first came before the council. It was brought up and referred to Mr. Frankel to review with the borough's financial consultant.
I thought that Mr. Robinson had asked at an earlier meeting if there was any talk about a pilot for Arsenal, and that the answer was no. Am I wrong on that, or it's?
Mr. Robinson had come to a Sarah meeting and asked if they had come before Sarah, and they did not. We have never discussed this at a Sarah meeting. This was not recommended by Sarah to the council.
Yes.
Yeah, well, my concern, A, is my concern number one is spending the money on the study. But, you know, if this application was submitted, I don't know how that, I have no idea how that would work. But I'm concerned about the spending of the money on this application because I've been to the microphone 6 weeks ago and gave you a list of about 8 communities that are fighting, not necessarily the governmental aspect of it, of the community, but the people in the community have got legal action and fighting mega warehouses. I understand that quite recently Raritan Township has changed their zoning ordinance to outlaw warehouses that are not attached to a manufacturing facility, that if in fact there was an application for that, it would have to go to the Board of Adjustment because it's not a part of what would be a permitted use. So, you know, these mega warehouses aren't something that everybody is fighting for. It's like they're fighting to stop them. And that we would take and even consider a pilot for something nobody wants. It's not something everybody is fighting for. If we're trying to bring in a business that might bring in a lot of associated businesses, or, you know, the cleanups that we talk about, but something that nobody wants. And there's even an entertaining a thought of a pilot. And I just like to go beyond that and ask, where is the communication of Sarah? Who are the contacts? Who is the planner at Sarah? Who is what planner that council people that are on Sarah? Who is the planner at Sarah? You don't have a who? I want to do something in town. I want to do some kind of economic development. Who do I talk to? Who is the contact? Is it
Executive director? There is an executive director of Sarah.
so? It's the executive director, and that is Mr. Ambrosio. And what are his credentials in economic development? I mean, I know Mr. Ambrosio, and for a long time, fine man, he was attorney. What are his credentials in economic development?
I would imagine he would just be the point person you go to. I would imagine it would then go to, you know, our engineers to discuss the, you know, the particulars.
Because, you know, we've got a long history here talking about Sarah. The mayor talked about, I think, the last meeting, all the critical stuff that goes through Sarah, et cetera. And we talked about meetings, where they're going to meet. That was a big topic of discussion. Personally, I don't care if Sarah meets in a telephone booth if they're doing the job. But I'll tell you what I do care about. I do care about them meeting someplace else, and me as a taxpayer getting stuck with setting up duplicate facility, duplicate communications, et cetera, that we already have in this room. If we have them somewhere else, or somebody else is paying for them, you know, I'm not as interested in that as are we going to foot a bill for Sarah to meet in another room, and we have to make a better availability? Apparently, I have to tell you, I haven't tried to watch meetings on Sarah, but everybody tells me, and I think it's come up here, that you can't hear. You can't hear in Sarah. And I watch meetings of the council. I watch them on YouTube, and, you know, generally can hear them pretty good. You can't hear here all half the time. But I don't hear people saying, once in a while you get a bad connection or something, you say, well, you can't hear. But I don't find that to be a problem with council meetings. But everybody keeps talking about they can't hear Sarah. I don't know how we resolve where they're going to meet. But I can tell you, if we've got to spend money to make some other meeting place available for them, taxpayer money, I think that's very wrong. And there's something wrong with communication here. It doesn't seem to be right. Maybe the reasons we have all this trouble with Sarah and the building that's going on, et cetera, and what they're promoting, maybe we don't have the right professionals. I mean, I know some of the people on the Sarah boards, and, you know, they're fine people. Some of them I've known for 50, 60. In one case, I think Dennis Grimbelli's on. I know him since I was 10 years old. They're fine people, but I don't know what their expertise in economic development is. There's got to be somebody to guide them. Just like if there's legal issues here, I don't think too many people, you have an attorney here who you rely on to give you answers on legal issues. I mean, maybe we don't have the right people. And maybe that's what's causing some of these Sarah problems and some of the problems with the developments going on in town. At this stage, to start talking about a pilot for Arsenal seems to be kind of ridiculous to me. And I hear everybody in town, it's a topic of conversation. They hate the idea of the warehouse. They can't see how it's going to work, including me. And it just goes on and on with no resolution. Somebody ought to be able to look into it. I call on you, Mayor, and through you, our professionals, Jay, you know, if I don't think you sit at the Sarah meetings, is that right?
No, Mr. Samuel attends the meeting.
Okay, I mean, I think there should be some communication to say that most people are not happy with what's going on, and something should be done. That's it for tonight. Thank you.
Well, Ken, one of the things that we're just trying to piece together here on the council was looking at that December, what was it, 13th? December 13th, when that apparently appeared on the agenda, was also the same agenda meeting and the same meeting where, if you remember, there were some fireworks. That was when I was refusing to appoint the professionals and I was asking for additional RFPs to go out because only 5 professionals had put in for multiple positions. And it was a war. It was a war up here because I wanted transparency and I wanted things to be open and upfront with the residents. And I had major, major problems. It was a very heated, nasty, difficult meeting.
This was the 21.
This was the
Right,
21
right,
meeting.
got it,
This
yeah,
was the,
okay.
that was the December 13th meeting. I was unsuccessful at trying to compel the council in order to go out for additional RFPs. I believe it was Councilwoman Mar was here, Delina was still here, I believe. Was Delina still here then? Delina was still here then. And at the end of the day, professionals stayed in place, no RFPs went out, and we all saw what was going on. That right underneath that discussion, which the ladies were kind enough to pull to see, is directly underneath all of that discussion was, how was it worded on that agenda?
Discussion on a pilot for Trammell.
Discussion on pilot for the Trammell Crow project per Sarah's recommendation.
So while I was trying to compel the council to turn around and bring in additional RFPs for professionals so that we would have choice and we would have the ability to have, you know, not the same individuals. My feeling of cleaning up, I don't want to say drain the swamp. So, you know, dredging the river, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. That very next item was that pilot. Think on it. And here we are today.
And where did it go from there? Was there a follow up on? I guess Sarah isn't involved in the pilots at all. Do they recommend the pilot?
Generally speaking, Sarah will review a project and determine whether or not, in their opinion, a pilot should be something the mayor and council should explore. Then it gets assessed by the financial advisors. It's brought back to the council for discussion, and ultimately they have the decision to either vote it up or vote it down once it gets to that point.
So, okay, let's go back to what the mayor said, the December 21 meeting. Nobody Sarah didn't get an answer. Nobody followed up on that from that time?
Well, it would appear as though it was given to my predecessor, who's no longer here, and that wasn't included in my briefing package when I started a week later. So I'm playing catch up, Ken, and catch up we will do.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah. I get the picture. Well, I'll save the rest for the next meeting. But when you think of, I just want to be said, when you think of all the bad things that have happened in town, And I'm not going to name them all, but, you know, starting with the destruction of the wall, an unsolved mystery, the murder and execution of a councilwoman, an unsolved mystery. The charges against Polando that were made, and later now the indictment against not only him, but his family. It has become an ugly pattern in this town, a very ugly pattern. And I've got some ideas on it. I've talked to some people about, not formally. I'm going to talk to some more people about it, but I think it goes beyond Sayreville. It may go to some things within the state, and it may go to some agencies beyond that, but there are some laws, and I'm not going to name them, but I'm sure anybody that's into criminal law, et cetera, could get an idea of, and I haven't named everything, I'm not going to, but I could get an idea of where I'm going. There are patterns here that have been set, and they're very ugly patterns, and there's intimidation. There's a lot of intimidation in town. I think some people are afraid to act out of intimidation. And while I'm on that subject, let me just finish by asking this question, because there have been rumors going around for months that there was a threatening letter to the mayor and council 2 or 3 months ago. Nothing has ever been, to my mind, nothing has ever been given to the people on that. And I don't mean the letter, I mean just the concept of it. Because I remember, one of the things I remember sitting there and having 10 or 15 girls up here taking awards. And I think it was after that so-called letter, it was all over town. I heard it from 10 different people. That so-called letter was there. And there's young girls here. I mean, when you walk in here, there's no metal detector. If there was some kind of a threat or an action against people here, and somebody, you'd have a lot of collateral damage. My point is, if there is such a letter exists, I think that people have a right to know that. Maybe they don't have the right to know everything that was in the letter. Maybe that's law enforcement. If a letter like that existed, that people have a right to know. And if that's my daughter up here to get an award, I should know whether I want her up here or I want her to just the award in the mail if there's some kind of potential threat. But there's a lot of funny things that are happening and a lot of actions that have not been taken. And I'm not going to go on anymore. I think you all get the point. You know what I'm talking about. And people, let me tell you, the citizens in this town know a lot more than most of you people here think they know. And you should start thinking about that. It's very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. I do have Christian that wishes to speak and add comment to the public. Christian?
Sorry, I actually raised my hand by accident, Mayor. I apologize.
Oh, okay, no problem. So I'll have Jim come up and then I do have a couple of statements myself.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to wait till the next meeting, but since my favorite topic, pilots, has been brought up, and you said this is on any item, I do want to know about that. First of all, and I know it's on the agenda for the next meeting, who would be paying Phoenix for this report?
Well, if it was approved by the council, then it would be the council, right? That's how it works.
Council.
So council had to approve that request, right? It was on our agenda. What happened? Oh, we don't know what happened in the December meeting.
You approved considering it for a pilot. That's the only thing.
That was it.
That was it. And I don't know what happened after.
So,
Okay, so tonight, it was voted on and approved. Oh, it's on the next agenda.
it's on the next agenda.
So next agenda. So if it gets voted on and approved, then who's incurring that cost?
Then
The Borough of Sayreville. There's your answer.
then the borough would be paying for study to determine if they should give somebody who wants to come into town a pilot, somebody who didn't, who said it was cost prohibitive to build a connector road between their project and Cheesequake Road and Journey Mill Road.
if that's all portions of that pilot consideration. So, walk me through a pilot discussion when it comes, I've never been involved to this degree. So when you have a pilot agreement, you're not just looking at tax dollars, but you're looking at whole agreements in reference to projects and other on-site things that would need to be considered, correct? It's not just the monetary perspective from,
That's correct. It would involve the monetary aspect and any other benefits that we could negotiate out of the developer, whether that would be infrastructure in support of their project or other things around the borough that they would be willing to fund.
okay,
Well, that's typically discussed at the time they're before Sarah or before the planning board, off-site and off-track improvements. And there were some, they're going to change some lights, they're going to widen the road a little bit, they're going to do something like that. Certainly
None
not
of
going to
that's
build a
done.
connector, certainly not going to build a connector road or anything substantial like that. Do we know what the amount that you will pay Phoenix if that's approved at the next meeting? So you're going to vote on something without knowing the amount.
It's based on an hourly rate and it depends on how long it takes them to complete the study and the negotiation.
And Glenn, you raised a good point that somebody else, a former mayor, had raised with me. Because he had heard rumors that Arsenal was looking for a pilot. And I said, no, I went to a meeting and was told there'd been no discussion about a pilot. I wonder what they have cost this borough already. Just with the police and the overtime and things like that associated with their wall and the closing of the roads for all that. I'd like to, not now, of course, but at some point in time, I would like to know that what they who are seeking a pilot have already cost us. I'm not talking about they cost us 7,500 trees. I'm talking about in dollars and cents, what have the taxpayers paid? But Mary, you said, or Councilwoman Novak, you said Sarah has not recommended this.
I do not remember this at all.
So
I see it there and I do not remember.
if that is the normal course of order, why is the council considering it now? And Glenn, on the next report, it's on your report. So I'm going to ask you, if this came in May of 2022 and it sat there and it wasn't in your briefing package, what's the genesis? What made you decide to bring it up now?
I got a follow-up email from Trammell Crow inquiring as to the status of their application. To which I replied, what application? And they were kind enough to forward the documents to me.
Okay, and have there been any other emails that you've exchanged with anybody about the pilot?
Just, yeah, with counsel from Sarah, making sure that they were legally able, because it was my understanding that this issue had already, well, it wasn't I had no understanding of the issue at all in terms of whether a pilot had or had not been discussed. In my familiarity with redevelopment, it's my understanding that a pilot needs to be submitted prior to construction. I verified with Mr. Baker, counsel to Sarah, that in fact was the case, that the application dropped before construction commenced, thus checking the box, making them able to continue with the pilot application.
But Sarah didn't act on that.
Well, once Sarah makes their recommendation, it comes to the council. As you're aware, anytime we spend money or accept money, this body has to approve it or deny it. Sarah makes a recommendation, but that's not binding on the borough from a
Wait,
financial
Sarah
standpoint.
made a recommendation on the pilot or did not?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is Sarah's recommendation a condition precedent to the council acting?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is anybody aware? Must Sarah make a recommendation before it goes to the council, before it goes to the governing body?
you know that, Sean?
I don't know offhand. I don't know what past practice is in this case, but, to reiterate what the BA is saying is before any money is spent on a study to determine whether or not the pilot is a good move or not, they have to authorize the payment for the vendor to do that study. So at the end of the day, the buck stops at the council.
Okay, so, and that pilot application is on file with the borough, not with Sarah. the autonomous agency, correct?
I don't know what Sarah has. I can only tell you what I have.
Okay.
Can I
All
ask a
right, so-
question? I'm
So
just,
can you please send me that application, or would you, and emails associated with it, or would you like me to
Not
open
sure I
those?
can't because it might be privileged because it involves contract negotiations, but I'll check with counsel. If you're entitled to it, I'll be more than happy to forward it. And if not, after the conclusion of the negotiations, I'm sure it would be available as
So-
part of that.
I have to interject here. I have to ask something quickly.
Jim, you would have to file an Oprah.
I'm sorry?
You would have to file an Oprah.
Oh,
Custodian of records, I don't argue with it.
Okay, so anyway, back to my question here. I don't know if the attorney knows this or anybody else. Because I'm very out of the loop. Pilot considerations usually happen pre-construction? Is that what you had mentioned? So wait,
I would
Pilot
never pretend to be an
applications.
expert on that, Mayor, so
Wait.
Mr. Skarzinski said that's the,
so that's typically, in your
In
experience,
my
pilot
understanding, and again,
applications.
this is, in my understanding, yes, they're filed pre-construction.
Okay. But I drive past that every single day. That's construction. Am I seeing walls? Am I seeing, and I'm seeing building structure. That's construction. Okay. Yeah, I don't want it because I don't know what but is this the authorization to engage FEDIC advisors in regards to a pilot application for arsenal trade? Now, when we say a pilot application has to be received prior to construction, received by whom? The redevelopment agency or the body that's responsible to act on that application? And this is the first time this application's coming before us. December, to me? You know that?
Yeah,
It didn't come to you?
No.
The correspondence I have.
But I can't approve that.
I know.
We don't
So-
know where.
Wait,
We don't know where it went.
Yeah, we don't know what.
oh, you don't know where it went, but you know it was sent to me. Was it sent to you?
No, that was-
That was the address on the letter. Was it received and stamped by you?
I have not seen it.
you have not, could the clerk repeat that, please?
I did not see that letter. I do not have that letter in my possession.
Oh.
From back of May of
Oh,
2022.
this gets curiouser and curiouser. So to whom was this letter sent?
Apparently it was sent to me,
It was addressed to the mayor.
but was it received by anybody? And what form? It was via email?
The copy I have was sent to me by email.
We do not know.
Well, can we find
Mayor,
out?
when I Oprah my copy, I'll share it with you.
Okay, that's a great idea.
We don't-
And
Just because it's the copy that was sent to the BA, and then I asked him to send to me, just because it's addressed to her, doesn't mean it was ever received by.
Yeah, no, I
right, that's what I'm
understand.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I certainly
And
know how
even
that
if-
works.
Even if it was, it should have been sent to the mayor
And council, because I can't do a damn thing with it.
So
I don't know what happened.
maybe if it wasn't properly received, maybe it's out of time. Maybe they're not eligible for even consideration. Maybe
And-
you don't have to spend whatever you're going to spend to
Time out.
Phoenix.
What was the date on that letter that nobody received or saw, but was received and wasn't received? And then we don't know where it is? May of 22 of this year?
22.
Oh, May of 20, I'm sorry,
2022
May,
is what I wrote down.
May of 22, last year.
Now, I do know that
And what was the date on that 13th, December 13th?
December.
Okay,
An email was received from Sarah asking the mayor and council to consider a pilot, which was approved. They need to file an application for the pilot, which we're assuming was addressed in May of
so
2022.
they knew enough to send that initial correspondence to the mayor and council to have it appear on the agenda meeting for
That was from Sarah's
December
attorney.
13th. Okay, still, I mean, Sarah's talking with the developer, my God, seriously. And this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that does redevelopment all across the friggin' country. But here in Saraville, they suddenly don't know who to send a letter to for application. And miraculously, nobody on the council saw that. I think it's time, if we go all the way back to that notorious arrest, and I requested of the council to entertain going out for RFP to bring in an investigator, an attorney, to look into the redevelopment agency and any other board that had dealings with the former chair, the now indicted chair, to look into these things. I think it's time that we move forward. Maybe we can get some answers that way. I'm not waiting for it. We only got one RFP, by the way, for that particular request, and we got 0 for the financial analysis, forensic auditor, 0. Peculiar. But this is quite frankly, it's a friggin' disaster. And this is huge. So needless to say, we have this on the next agenda. Council's going to have to vote and determine whether or not to accept the application to refer to Phoenix Advisors for pilot consideration. All right. Here we go.
And as I said once before, Mayor, the first I learned of a pilot was when the borough engineer, Mr. Samuel, raised it at a SERA meeting. And Chairman Daddio expressed surprise, and he said, I didn't know anything about a pilot. And apparently the engineer and the applicant had been talking about a pilot. And just while I'm talking about that, just to pick up on Mr. Olszewski's question, who is the planner for SERA? SERA is putting 2,000 apartments on the NL tract and 2 million square feet of warehouses on Main Street, surrounded by residential units. So it ought to be obvious there's not a planner for SERA, because that wouldn't happen if you had a planner. But I don't want to, well, yeah, I do want to go cautiously here. If we're going to award a contract to Phoenix and you don't know what the amount is or what the not to exceed figure is, and we're paying for it, and the applicant, the person requesting it, isn't paying for it, I would, and especially if it's to allow them, this group that would not extend the connector road to Journey Mill Road, although I understand from Councilwoman Novak, there's been some progress on that, and I appreciate that. But originally they weren't going to do that in the beginning because it was, as the engineer told me, it was cost prohibitive to them. I would urge you to go slowly on this and make sure that you have answers to some questions. For instance, is a recommendation by SERA a condition precedent? Do you have that recommendation? Is there an application? Was the application filed timely? And who's going to pay Phoenix? And I guess the whole idea of Phoenix is to tell us the pros and cons of the pilot.
Yeah,
right?
well, there are,
Yeah.
auditor
Okay,
or
well, that-
accountant here.
That's not inherently a bad thing, but
I'd much
I
rather
think there are a
ours
lot of
than
questions
theirs.
that have to be answered before, before you act on this.
Sounds good.
And I'm sure you all agree. I'm sure you have these same questions that I have.
Feel like I stepped into the Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
That infamous scene.
Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else? Let's see what goes on. All right. We got a couple bites at the apple here. Is this new or? All right.
Bob Duffy, 111 Merritt Avenue. When someone from the township comes to you, there was 4 players back then that we're talking about, 4 players. Okay, 3 are gone. 1 is still there. If you want names, I'll give you names. But when people come up to you like myself and tell you, you have to get rid of that person because they're no good, there's a reason why a public person will come up here and say that. You got a clean house. One to go. And I'm a little surprised that a couple of the council people here, okay, that was back then, and I brought to their attention how a person was breaking the law every single day. And they did nothing. Zero. Not the new council people, the old council people. So just take it to heart. This township has to clean house and start over from the beginning because it's going to get worse, not better. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. All right, anybody else from the public? Wonderful. Can I have just a motion to close the public portion? I did want to make a statement before we adjourned about a different topic. Do I have a motion to close the public portion? Okay, so first, second, okay. All in favor? Aye. I just, go ahead. Did you want to go first, Dan?
A question for Jay. I thought I heard that NJDOT was going to redo the rear line Route 9, Route 35 connection. Did you see any plans or hear anything about that or no?
There was a resolution you adopted at a recent meeting where there were improvements to 9 and 35 in South Amboy, but it impacted Sayreville's utilities.
Okay.
So I
Does
don't know if that's what you're
does it extend
referring
up to Lee Avenue and Hill? Is it going to extend that far? or
It
you
doesn't go
don't-
that far.
Doesn't
No.
go that far.
Davis, that's right, Davis Lane, yeah.
Any other questions before I just make a quick comment? So, yeah, of course you may.
And I'm new to the council, so when we had this discussion about Arsenal and the pilot, the first I saw of it was Friday when I received the agenda package. And there's a lot of discussion today. I would just make a recommendation, and I wouldn't mind making a motion that we at least put this off until we can clarify at least the facts that led us up to today. Because it's become a bit confusing. And if you're making we're making a decision on what really is a very large financial, it has very large financial implications. I think I just would like to have that clarified.
I do know that's on our next agenda, so I think any action that we take in reference to it will be done at that next meeting. But Councilman, I think that's wise to turn around and get the facts figured out, what's going on, where this originated from, before we enter into something that could be costly for the residents and something we can't undo or maybe don't understand. Maybe it's a wonderful thing. But if we don't have all those pieces together before we even start the discussion, how can we be expected to make the right decision at the end? But I think that it's something that at the next meeting, Councilman, if you wanted to bring that up, and then we would have to look to have a second and then so remove it.
Go ahead. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Glenn, would it be all right to talk about what we've been talking about with pilots and sharing of information? at this point? So we've been talking about explaining how pilots work. I think it's beneficial to those of us on this body right now. I will learn a lot. My first pilot was the Riverton pilot as the administration and finance, and professionals I went to included our tax collector to see if that was a good fit for the town. And he had some follow-up questions. We made sure that they were all answered so we can make a better informed decision, but there's still a lot of gaps in our knowledge overall. So I have reached out, and Mary has reached out, and Sarah has reached out to our BA and our attorney on Sarah and other professionals to help create a presentation to explain just how pilots work, where they start, where they come from, where they can be beneficial, where they may not be beneficial, so that when we do have decisions like this, we have that kind of foundation. So that's step one in the informational outreach that we do have planned. And I hope that's going to help clear up some of the questions, not the ones particularly that we have tonight, but there are so many questions around this. I think public outreach and clarification is very important, and that's the first step. Second steps we'll talk about after that first step has been achieved, but I think what the chief has recommended is probably a good idea to be very cautious tonight. And then we'll also have that presentation. I think we're just waiting to coordinate the recordings.
Yes, which I have on my authority will be available next week.
Okay, and I do appreciate all the work and effort that you've put into this, and I'm looking forward to the product. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
ever since Glenn shared this information with me, I question the fact that usually everything that comes from the clerk's office is dated.
Do you mind using the mic if possible?
Oh,
Thank you. Everything that's received through the clerk's office is dated. So even if they addressed it to the mayor and not the mayor and council, so that's why none of us saw it. There should be some proof. And it's my understanding that if they did not present the application to the governing body, which is all of us, before construction started, we can't even entertain this application. So I'd like to find out a legal status on the application to start with, because I don't see how this can, if it was never stamped that we received it, then we didn't. So therefore, let the lawyers decide. I don't believe, from the knowledge I have, and believe me, I don't have a tremendous amount of knowledge, but from what the questions I've asked, the answers I've gotten is that it must be received before any development actually started. And if there's no proof that that was received in Borough Hall, then it didn't happen. My opinion. I'll probably say that at the next meeting. If it's necessary.
Right now, Jess, you don't recall seeing that, and in quick look, you didn't find.
Tomorrow after.
I'll start looking, but I looked, the reason why I didn't come up with the December 2021 meeting is because I was looking for May of 22 when the letter was addressed, but I didn't find anything in 2022.
Where's that letter?
On my hard drive.
Can you send it, are you able to pull it up, print it before we leave? Okay, print it to me, print it before we leave here. And that was a forward and it was email, it was electronic.
It was just an electronic email from Trammell Crow.
Okay, to you. Okay, with asking for a follow-up.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll print it out for you.
okay. But nothing in reference to, did it have this supposed email that came to me?
Honestly, didn't.
Didn't
I don't know if it
scroll
Came email or hard copy.
or anything?
The letter was addressed to you.
It said the letter was addressed. to-
Copy of
The
the.
letter.
That physical letter.
There was a copy of a physical letter that is on your email drive.
Yes.
And you don't have a copy of that letter in the clerk's office with a stamp or receipt. And it was only addressed to the mayor.
And there was people CC'd on it. I was not one of the ones that was CC'd on.
You weren't CC'd on it. And in order for that application to be, it's got to come to the governing body. Okay. Got it, I think. In some capacity.
We'll get to it to the bottom of it by lunchtime tomorrow.
I have faith. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I just had one comment that I wanted to make in reference to something that Ken Olszewski had mentioned in reference to his concern for myself and for the rest of the council and the residents here within that frequent these meetings in person. Am I concerned about all of our safety? Absolutely, I am. Absolutely, 100% I am. For different reasons, some of which I won't put on the record right now from investigative purposes. Am I concerned for my family? Yes, I am. You have a woman that was seated right here to our left that is murdered, gone in cold blood, shot, killed, and we don't know why yet. Over the course of my time on the council, I've received multiple nasty, borderline threatening, gross, disgusting, some of the most vicious, nastiest language that I have ever even could consider being spewed at a human being. They've been sent to me privately. They were posted on social media publicly. The fence referencing how fat I am, how disgusting I am, and all kinds of things. That video was actually not found by me initially. It was found by my daughters. So that was hard. That was hard. Since Eunice's death, murder, and her memorial, I've received even more disturbing comments, calls. Some I have seen, some I haven't, that I can't even express to you. That's not what public service is supposed to be about. None of us sitting up here, none of us should have to worry about the cars that drive past their house. None of us up here should have to worry about whether or not their family, their children or grandchildren are safe to take a ride to the park or be home alone. Nobody should have to get in their car in the morning, and before they do so, look around to make sure that there's nobody walking that they don't recognize. And nobody should have to turn around and outfit their house with cameras so that you could feel protected and at least take a look at them before your kids get home or you get home. Yes, I am concerned about the safety and security of this building and our employees and every single person that walks in here. I've spoken with Glenn Skarzinski with our BA about making sure that this building is more secure. I've spoken to the chief about that as well. And yes, there were multiple days where I chose to conduct meetings from the safety of my own home virtually for that particular reason. And I'll be honest with you, from meeting to meeting, I make that decision sometimes a half an hour before I show up here, depending on what's been thrown at me that day, or depends on what's made and put into the news. And that is not the way any government body, any person who really is just up here for the good of the town should feel. When politics becomes something that you're worried about for your safety, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? You do. You can't walk into a Board of Education meeting without going through metal detectors. You can't walk into a Board of Education building with bags without them being checked by security. Government buildings are soft targets. Our councilman knows that well. That was identified years ago. Before we came into this building here today, there was another shooting in another state, okay, in a building. And there was also another school shooting in that same state that wasn't making the news. This building needs to be secure. Like Ken said, we got a whole plethora of kids up in front of us and we don't know. I'm always grateful because our police, we have our chief here today, but there should be officers here in uniform. You shouldn't be able to just come up here whenever, whatever. Because our officers can respond to a situation. But once a person's in here, that's what they're doing. They're responding to that situation. They can't stop it before it happens. Nothing can truly be stopped if somebody wants to do something. But we should offer each and every person in this building at least the peace of mind of knowing we did everything that we could to make sure that this would be a safe place. I don't believe that metal detectors stop everything, but they're a deterrent. Every single day I go into a school building that has security guards, that has metal detectors. Every single year we do multiple lockdown drills, some practice, some real. That's the reality of my profession now. That's the reality of your children's lives now. I think we need to take heed of that and protect our residents here. It's incumbent upon us to do that. So I will ask once again, and I'll ask the council formally, if anybody has objection to having our police department turn around and do an assessment of our borough buildings, especially this one where we invite the public to meetings in order to provide more security for our residents and for our employees. They can maybe work with the Board of Education or come up with what you think you can do in order to secure this building, but it needs to be done quickly, but not hastily. We need security, and more so now than ever, as we await to find out what happened with Eunice. But the world, whether Eunice was murdered or not, is not the place it used to be. So I'll ask you, Chief, to please, this has to be a priority on top of finding Eunice's murderer. And I'll await those plans, and the council will await those plans. Anybody on the council have issue with that?
Back in the 90s, we had an armed officer at every meeting. So, and then it, for whatever reason, it stopped.
Fizzled.
Yeah, but in the 90s, we always had one.
So anybody opposed to at least having that police presence here every,
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to that, of course, but absent that, I don't know, maybe we lock the doors again and we go virtual. No one in attendance. I mean, because if we say that, right, and if there's, I heard about a letter, I never saw a letter. And if you're concerned about the safety before something actually happens, maybe we should be proactive and say, no more people inside, watch us on TV, those doors are locked until we get some security, because we don't have metal detectors, right?
I don't have anything.
Chief is here and I know we're in good hands, but until we feel secure, if there's a concern, why wouldn't we do that?
Well, the problem with that is we have employees, I mean, that's fine for council meetings, but we have employees in this building. If we're concerned about us at council meetings,
Yeah.
we should be concerned about the employees every day of the week.
Yeah,
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying too. They handle money, anybody can come into any part, right on down to the basement, like there's nothing. You know, I worry about them on a day-to-day basis. Now, I don't know if I would go so far as saying lock the building, that's something for you. We all have the ability to work remotely from here as council people and as the mayor. But for those people that want to participate as residents, yeah, you can either walk into the building, you participate virtually, but for those people that choose to come in person, you know, for those kids that we turn around and ask to come in to receive certificates, you know. I know I'm going to do what I feel is right in my heart in order to protect my life, my children's lives. Councilman Conti mentioned that he had heard about a letter. Yeah, there was a letter sent to me. I did not receive the letter. I did not open the letter. It was received and opened by our clerk's staff. That letter was so heinous that it had to be immediately turned over to authorities in order to be processed for forensics and so forth to find out where it originated from. I never saw the letter. I had it read to me. And I feel horrible to the chief to have to read that, because I know that was not something you wanted to do. Those are words that neither one of us wanted to hear, let alone you have to say. So when I tell you that, yeah, there are times I don't feel safe, yeah. And that is not, I take a lot. I'm a pretty tough cookie. But when something like that comes at you, as a mother who has 2 children, who lives and works and is very visible, makes you step back a little bit. It makes you pause. When you turn around and you see the indictment come forward of the chairman that you have been bringing up at meetings, and you read that one of those charges is terroristic threats by a family member in reference to a witness, makes you pause and makes you wonder. It's not what government's supposed to be about here. We're all up here because we want to do what's right for this town, and we don't want to have to worry about getting in our cars and whether or not we're going to make it home or not. Am I being like dramatic? I don't know, maybe, but unless it happens to you, I wouldn't judge. So I wasn't going to make this announcement this evening, but I will, because many reporters have already reached out to me. I am not seeking reelection as mayor of this borough. Mostly for many of the reasons I just mentioned here. For 10 years. I couldn't believe it was a decade since I served as a council person. I put my heart and soul into every decision that I had to make. Countless hours of my life. I lost many, many, many hours with my family. Missed important milestones in my kid's life because I believed that this was important. My family, we have meetings, like full-on family meetings, when it came to each one of my reelections and running for mayor, asking them if this is something that they were okay with me doing. And my daughters were always my compass. And they said, Mommy, we want you to do this because we want our town to be better. We want you to do this, Mommy, because we believe in you. We want you to do this because we're proud of you. And I did the best I could. But since Eunice's murder, since COVID, and even going back to that video of that gentleman that put those nasty things about me, on the, about the fence, the Kilpatrick, Mayor Karen and stuff. Both Haley and Addison, my girls, came to me and they sat me down, like they're now the parent. And they said, Mommy, we don't want you to do this anymore. And it's because they worry every night. My daughter Addison right now will not be going to bed until I show up in the house. So when we're here till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, she's up. My husband's up. Haley's up. And my mom is actually on. She's on every night that we're here. It's a hard decision for me because I believe so passionately in this town. But I love my family more than anything in the world. And sometimes a good leader knows when it's time to step down. But I've got at least 11 more meetings to be a real pain in the ass and to hold people accountable and to try and implore everybody up here to do what's right. So when I stand up here for you, and I stand up here for my daughters. Listen, stay involved. And I think we have some really good people here that are going to do great things for Cerebral. With that, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
5-minute break, Mayor.
Yeah. Do you believe that we have everybody back? So at this time, I'm going to call our next meeting to order. And it seems like we got rid of some of the biggest discussions to go. So I will ask you once again to please stand for a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Statement of publication again, please, Jessica.
Take notice that this agenda meeting of the mayor and council being held this 10th day of April 2023 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balka.
Here.
Fonte.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Enoha.
I think he's not. Yeah, Mike. Is he still there? Okay. Might have just lost him.
Roberts.
Here.
Zabrowski.
Here.
Okay, with that, we're gonna move forward. Oh, am I in the wrong? Hold on one second. I just reopened the regular agenda again. Let's go to agenda. Okay, thank you. General discussion then at this point. Jessica, I'm gonna let you run through all of these talking points, please.
Coin toss request for the corner of Washington Road and Ernston Road received from Saraville EMS Cadet Corp. for July 8th and 9th, and Saraville EMS for November 25th and 26th. Authorization to renew CAD system software maintenance by Kuas in fourth development through NJ state contract in an amount not to exceed $31,654. Authorization to award a non-fair and open contract to Milo Range Training Systems for the purchase of a training simulator in an amount not to exceed $48,366.75. Authorization to donate the following vehicles to the Saraville Fire Department for extrication drills, 2004 Dodge Durango. Authorization to memorialize an emergency contract issued to Gabriel Roofing and Siding for roof repair and Morgan First Aid Squad in the amount of $42,500. Authorization to enter into a shared service agreement with Middlesex County for goose control.
Hey, Jeff, hang on.
Yep.
We still don't have any RFPs to cut the grass?
I think they're going out to bid shortly because there was, they were meeting here last week to go to all the different areas, I do believe. I'll double check with Danielle. She's handling.
Because I know that contract expired and we don't have anybody doing that.
On a holdover until,
I don't think so.
I don't know.
So, okay.
I believe they're going out to bid shortly. Well, we will be receiving bids. They, like I said, they were meeting last week. Phil was taking them around to the different parks and all that. I do know that. I can get that information tomorrow and email it to you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Application for a special event received from the following NAR to hold a car show on May 7th at Burks Park from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the Dorcas Temple to conduct religious services and events on various dates. And events will take place on the property. Reso at the next meeting. And that's it for me.
Our business administrators report.
Briefly, looking for authorization to promote Mark Hurley to senior public safety telecommunicator in the police department. This is the fruits of him doing a desk audit and being successful in that. So we're looking for approval for that. I'm looking to pull number 2 in view of the fact that we need to conduct a further investigation into that before we proceed.
Any objection to the pulling of number 2 by the borough?
Somebody did so.
Any objection? All right. There you
Number
go.
3, we're looking for authorization to amend chapter 4 for the police department to allow hiring of entry-level police officers without an examination requirement. And by way of explanation, the pool of candidates off the entry list is getting smaller and smaller. Our needs are getting larger and larger. There is legislation out there that would allow us to both hire alternate route candidates under the provisions of civil service. They've carved out an exception, and it would also allow us to hire fully qualified special officer 2s who have completed the full academy curriculum. And this would give us a larger candidate pool once we get through the list that we're currently working through now, which incidentally you approved to certify last meeting, which the results have been coming in. Actually, the deadline was Friday. So we had some came in today that were date stamped appropriately, and they've been forwarded over to PD.
I just have a question. I mean, I guess me. This, you don't think that this would, say, hey, I'm gonna do this now or what?
I would think not, particularly with regard to the alternate route people. I mean, your average alternate route candidate on their own expense pays for their academy out of pocket. They're really unable to work for 6 months. So it does show a certain dedication toward achieving a law enforcement position. These folks, I'm sure, test, but this is just a little commitment beyond what we're looking for in the ordinary applicant. And like I said, I'm sure Mr. Zabrowski can attest to this much more than I can. The pool of people seeking out police work is shrinking exponentially over the years. And in order to keep up with the demand that we have to maintain at least what we consider a comfortable roster number, this is something that we're interested in pursuing.
I just have one more question. Do we know whether to go alternate route? There's any kind of testing to get into the academy, or just anybody that can pay the fee can get in?
Again,
I know, I'm sure there's background checks. They wouldn't take anybody in. Is there any testing?
Just for the, I know for the alternate route, there is a selection process through the academies, and each academy has a different way of doing it.
Okay.
I believe it's a testing process, plus there's not every applicant in a background investigation as well.
I would assume.
Yeah. The only concern I have, and Mary, you may have the same, is that a few years back, we reinstituted a residency requirement. And the reason being is we wanted to be able to have the highest quality recruit of applicants as possible. I think my only concern, and I would ask the chief, because I'm assuming this is because the numbers are so small that you're doing this, but I guess to Sean, if we were to do this, my concern was that we don't circumvent that residency part of it, because we do see a much higher quality applicant as a result of that. And we've become much more diverse as a result of that too. And I don't want to see us move backwards in that regard. So I don't know if that's something that can be included in this resolution, because I certainly understand recruitment has become very difficult.
I can share with you, John, that based on the responses we got from this list, there were 28 residents on the list. Only 5 responded to the certification. So only 28 borough residents were on the entry list.
Is there a way to work that in?
Yeah, I mean, we could still have that as a requirement. Let's make that part of it.
Lives in town.
Just a provision to go through the residential portion of the list prior to.
And then county.
I agree. That's our goal, chief. That's our, go to our residents first, and then as opposed to going right to the county or the state lists, we could seek out the class 2s or PTC certified alternate route candidates that are pretty much ready to go and are somewhat vetted. That's the goal of the ordinance.
We cast the net for 125 certifications. They gave us the Sayreville list and the county list, and I think there were only 83 names total.
That was the state list as well. There was 87 names showed up,
On 3 lists combined?
the entire list.
Wow.
Everything. There was 87 names. It's the lowest I've ever seen. Probably the lowest both of you have ever seen in your careers as well. So
Wow.
it's concerning.
Of course, yeah.
That's why our goal is
Yeah.
definitely shifted towards recruitment. It's a big goal for our department, the county, and everybody pretty much in the state is really shifting towards recruitment to try to draw more candidates in to come to the
Mhm.
profession right now. But everyone's struggling with it. Everyone we talk to, all my colleagues are struggling in the same boat. Recruitment and hiring is tough right now.
And the two of you worked up this recommendation, correct? Yourself and Glenn with this here, you both had conversations about this and
We did.
made the recommendation.
My captains that also spearhead the hiring project. We had one of our training instructors, our sergeant, reach out to Monmouth County Police Academy where he does some work on the side. In the course of his duties as well. And he spoke to the director there and he said, this is pretty much a course of action he's seeing other departments in the state do to come and take some of these class 2 officers to also, like I said, to supplement the demand for hiring right now. And then I did request a meeting with the BA, Becky, our personnel director, myself, and some of the others involved in the hiring process. So yes, we did discuss this.
And then we followed up and we met with Ms. Wyatt, our labor attorney, and she agreed that this was something that we can absolutely do under the provisions of the carve out and civil service law.
But just to reiterate, I agree, absolutely. Our several residents will have preference in our hiring process for sure.
Because I know even doing background checks, so much easier for residents from town as opposed to traveling. When we were on the NAACP consent decree, traveling all over the state for 3 counties to do background checks.
It's burdensome. It's a lot. It is.
You go back.
Yeah. Understood. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have to get creative, I guess, not just in Sayreville, but across, other towns and so forth when it comes to our law enforcement officers. like education too, same thing, but here you're talking about the people that protect your lives. So let's hope that we'll be able to get some very fine candidates out of compiling this. Thank you, Chief. All right, ladies and gentlemen, any other questions? Does that take care of where we need to be? I think we're coming over to Jay for, no, Denise first, I'm sorry.
Authorization to refund escrow to Dish Wireless LLC in the amount of $147.91.
Reso needed. Okay, anything else?
That's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Borough Engineer. Jay?
Madam Mayor, 2 items. First is the Rockville LLC. That's a development on Cross Avenue that just approved by the planning board. Need a resolution authorizing the execution of permit applications by the mayor and the clerk's office. Second item is the leasing of locations for antenna space on the Pulaski tank. We're receiving bids tomorrow. So if everything's in order, we'd like to have resolutions awarding those contracts at your next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Borough Engineer, Borough Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief update on the community center litigation. Status quo, nothing has changed. There was actually a court date this morning, which was adjourned. It was a mutual adjournment. Just because nothing has changed, the applicant has not submitted a complete application yet. And as you know, they can't do a proper review of the application until it's complete. It's not complete. We believe that ultimately will be heard by the planning board when that happens, but they are really not getting this done in a timely fashion. So I'm hopeful the alternate site is working out for them. But we have another court date in 1 week. I think it's going to be adjourned again just because it keeps getting adjourned, or I should say it was adjourned today because the application was not complete. We don't believe it will be complete in a week, but we'll be prepared to go to court if we have to. Status quo in the community center.
Thank you for that update. Okay, any need for executive session? None. Public portion at this time, I think, come on up. I think we hit the major one, so.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square. I have a question about item number 3 on Mr. Skorzinski's report. Authorization to amend Chapter 4 Police Department to allow the hiring of entry-level police officers without an examination requirement pursuant to JSA 11, which is what you just talked about. And I understand why this might be necessary sometimes. I understand the advantages of alternate route, not only in police work, but in other things. I understand with Class 2 that you might want to do that. My concern is this. If you adopt this ordinance, will this and civil service be mutually exclusive? Is it you can do one or the other, or can this ordinance be written in such a way so that you first pull the residents who are on the civil service test, and then if there aren't enough, then you do what the statute allows?
That's the direction we just got from discussion with the council, and that's the way the ordinance will be crafted.
Okay, so it will not negate civil service.
Correct. And this by its own virtue doesn't negate, this is authorized by civil service, the ability to do this.
I understand,
But no,
but
residents will retain their hiring preference in the borough of Sayreville, particularly for police.
well, that wasn't my question about residents, because we all know once folks get appointed, they move to another town anyway. So that wasn't my question. My question is, will you first pull from the civil service list, and if you then run out, then you will implement
I
this?
think the general consensus here was pull from the residents portion of the list. And
In
once
the
it
resident
opens,
portion of the civil
and once
service
we
list,
get
yeah.
beyond the residents portion of the list, we could pick from both pools, I
Okay.
believe was the
Okay,
tenor of
thank you
the
very much.
discussion.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, anybody else? Ken? Oh. No.
Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. First thing I'd like to say, Mayor, I was very moved by your comments of what has gone on with you personally and the town and some of the difficult things you've had to endure. I think we share a lot in common because I guess I'm a hard-headed, people might say Polish guy by my name, but quite to get into some secrets. I'm actually half German. grandmother on
Hi,
on
Grandpa.
each side. So, yeah, I'm pretty hard-headed. I'm in a different stage of life than you. I understand you have a lot of concern about raising children, family. I'm at a little different place in life. I fully recognize I'm a long way across the river already. And I guess from that standpoint, in addition to being hard-headed, it takes a hell of a lot to intimidate me. I'm the guy that went to freeholder meetings when we fought the incinerator. And, you know, some of the things I've told you about doing resolutions to the state and stuff to change things. I'm not just talking because I'm telling you from the standpoint that we did them. Just to digress, I headed up the Middlesex County Environmental Coalition, which successfully fought City Hall and kept this town from having a mass burn incinerator or dioxin factory in town. And we went to the freeholder meetings. We are the only group, it's the only time in the history of Middlesex County that the freeholders were ever brought up on ethics charges. And we would go there, and believe me, we did not have a big group, but we had a very effective group. Some of the names you would know readily, Julian Cappick, who we've named park after him, and I'm not going to go into it. We had people from all areas, Carteret. We had a great lady from Old Bridge, et cetera, et cetera. So you can fight City Hall and you can win if you know what you're doing and you have the determination to do it. And the big thing is I talked about Frank Bella at the last meeting. You know, the big thing we need integrity. And unfortunately, that has slipped in this town, as we've seen with some of the things you've enumerated, Mayor, that happened to you, et cetera. It's intimidation. I've had some private discussions with the chief a little after I talked before, and got some other ideas that I've talked to a few other people we're going to explore, but I do not support closing Borough Hall, because then they win and we lose. But security is important. I can tell you at the Housing Authority, I'm very concerned. At the last meeting a month ago, I said, we've got to do a better job for our employees. We've only got 2 employees. It's a small housing authority. It's usually 2 people there. About 2 years ago, we put in split doors. And that's fine. What that does is keeps the little old lady that lives there from pestering them, coming to your desk 5 times a day to have change of $1 or blah, blah, blah. You can let in the people you want. But what it's not good for is they go to the door because the doors are solid and you need to split and open it up. If there's somebody to do bad things, it's not going to protect that. They're going to pull these people right across and start doing work on them. And we have the fob that you need to get in, but everybody knows that's, if you want to get into that building, it's not going to be that hard. You'll wait for somebody to go in there, and most people are not going to say, hey, can I help you? What are you doing here? Of course I will, but most of the people that live there just assume you belong and they're going to let you in. So it's a safety thing. I'm telling you, building safety is a big concern. What I've asked that I've talked to our professionals and what we're going to do on these solid doors, we are going to put in kind of like a Ring doorbell kind of thing. So if somebody's at the door, they'll ring and our employee will be able to see who is there and what they look like, et cetera, and see if they need to come in. And we're also going to put a emergency button at their desk where something goes wrong, they can hit it and it goes to our building security, who will notify the police department if necessary. So whatever we need to do for building security here, you know, I'm all for, I support it. We got to spend money to do it. That's fine. There's nothing more important than the safety of our people and the safety of the people who come here to Borough Hall, come to council meetings, et cetera. And we can't get intimidated about these nitwits that are around and all over and trying to disrupt democracy. So I support all that stuff. Some of the things I've said before, earlier tonight at the microphone, I'm exploring with some other people. We've got some other ideas. I think this town needs some help. I've been around a long time. I see what's happened, and if you want to pinpoint it, we've gone downhill in the last 20 plus years. And I'm not going to get into it, but I know what's happened from that period of time around the year 2000 to today. And I can tell you, when I was in office and John McCormick was mayor, we fought very hard to keep control of Sayreville with Sayreville. And it was about that time that it changed around 2000, where some of the control with Sayreville is no longer with Sayreville. And I think people sitting up there, most of you know what I'm talking about. And political machines, we all know from the history of Tammany Hall to the Hague machine and in Hudson County, et cetera, and some of the stuff that goes on. Some of it's very dirty. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen them travel with an entourage, and the entourage of the politician looks very much like the entourage of John Gotti. I've seen it in action. It's ugly, but that's the way politics, unfortunately, can work. It's the way it's working here. And the people who are in the forefront of indictments, et cetera, yeah, I blame them, but I blame some people above them for enabling those people to have the power to be able to do that here. And they let them there. They knew what they were. They let them alone. I told you at the microphone a couple of months ago, yeah, I have a clear conscience because I made the calls and I said, cut it out. Everybody knows what's happened. And I enumerated all the stuff, which I'm not going to go over, but the embezzlement in the court, the council person that resigned and said it was because they were getting a promotion. And it was in the paper that they were under an indictable offense in New York, et cetera, and said, you need to cut it out because everybody knows what's going on. And you know what? They didn't do it. And some of the people right here had a lot more ability to get this stopped than I did. Make it clear, I've never had a position in the Democratic Party of this town. I've never had a position. I've been around. Some of the reasons I'm around, and I'm not stupid, from the old adage, you know, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I was around to keep the enemy close. I've never been a committee person. I've never been on an executive board. So I had no authority to do anything regard to some of this ugly stuff that happened. But some other people did. And they had it. And unfortunately, I'm not going to speak for them, but I think it speaks for themselves that they really didn't seize the opportunity to get together and say, hey, what we're doing here is wrong. So there's more stuff to come out. What we've seen on the indictments, that's only one thing. There may be more on other levels, and there's much more to come out. And I'll tell you, I'm not stopping. There's no way that I'm stopping. Rest assured, I'll be at this microphone. I'll be wherever I have to be. I won't be intimidated. And I want to get Sayreville back to what it was, back to what I saw it as a kid and grew up with. Oh, sure, there were political fights. There's always that. But get it back to where it's a decent, clean town. It's gone way downhill. I thank you, Mayor, for your efforts to expose some of the stuff that had happened and put you in the position that you're in right now. I know what happened. I saw that. And I saw a lot of it was fights on what I'm talking about are the people on the top. And people that want to sit here and act like they don't know what I'm talking about or it didn't happen. You know what? We all know that that isn't true. They know what I'm talking about. And It needs to stop. Kind of a little bit too late on some regard, but it's time to clean house, and I mean clean house at every level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. All right, seeing nobody else wishing to come forward at this time, I will entertain a motion to close the public portion.
So moved. Second.
Is all in favor? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Is there a second on that? Any opposed? Okay.